What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 11 PB Chapter 243 Above all pupil skills, the evil king is true eyes, seeking subscription. Advertisement. Wait, what's the situation? My Kusana sword is broken. Uchiha Sasuke's pupils suddenly shrank, and his face changed drastically, without blood. This outrageous picture, such a sudden appearance makes him totally unbelievable. To know, the hardness and sharpness of this Kusanaru sword has long surpassed an ordinary steel blade. And after injecting the 1000-bird blade formed by lightning-style chakra, its power has shown a geometric multiplier. It can be said to cut iron as mud and indestructible. However, at this moment just now, the Qing Yu in front of him not only used 2 fingers to block the cutting blade without injury, but also broke it easily. This terrifying power is completely unheard of, and more importantly, in such a short distance, he did not feel the chakra fluctuations on the opponent at all. In other words, at the moment just now, it was his pure physical power that blocked and broke the Kusanaru sword. Aware of this, Sasuke's pupils shrank instantly. Immediately, he gritted his teeth abruptly, quickly stood up, retreated a few meters to the back, and distanced himself from Qing Yu. While throwing away the broken Kusanaru sword in his hand, his chakra surged quickly and decided to use the power of his whole cards. Stare. Just for a moment, his eyes turned into a magnificent blood red. Sharingan. Uchiha Sasuke's face was extremely solemn, his eyes sank, and he looked towards Qing Yu in front of him. At the same time, the invisible chakra quickly rushed to the eyes of Qing Yu on the opposite side. This is Sharingan's unique illusion, just need to look at each other. By interfering with the opponent's chakra, the opponent can be pulled into the illusion. Although Sasuke's illusion skills are not the whole card ability he relies on the most, but the level is also not weak. After all, this was developed to deal with Uchiha Itachi's illusion. Sasuke's heart was condensed, and his eyes were sharp. I want to defeat you first, then, it's Uchiha Itachi's turn. Base. At this moment, Sharingan's illusion technique rushed to Qing Yu's eyes without any hindrance. Did it succeed? Sasuke's eyes flashed, and his heart paused slightly. His Sharingan, when faced with other enemies in the past, can be said to be almost unfavorable. Even Orochimaru would not look directly at his Sharingan casually. Therefore, he is very confident, however, at the next moment. The unexpected scene appeared. I saw Qing Yu who was covered by Sharingan's illusion in front of him, but suddenly a smile that couldn't help but appeared on his face. He just had a relaxed smile on his face and said nothing. Sasuke was stunned for a moment. Thoughts are interrupted. What's going on? Did my illusion fail to activate? Aware of this, Sasuke gritted his teeth unwillingly. Suddenly, chakra broke out in his hand, next moment. One step. Base. He rushed out in an instant, and saw a burst of blue and white thunder and lightning on the palm of his hand, suddenly appearing. Just like the screaming sound of thousands of birds screaming at the same time, the boiling thunder and lightning occupies everything around. On the other hand, Sasuke's eyes were sharp, gritted his teeth, and shouted. Chidori. This moment, he finally plans to use his most proficient and most trusted move at the moment. However, at this time, on the opposite side, Qing Yu suddenly raised a hand abruptly, facing Sasuke on this side, and said indifferently. The fourth of Hado Bai Lei. Boom, accompanied by a huge shockwave roar. From Qing Yu's index finger, a bright white thunder and lightning beam suddenly rushed out. Advertisement. The blasting lightning formed a scale like a laser cannon, and it rushed towards Sasuke, and directly bombarded it. No doubt, this is a Raiden versus Raiden competition. Uchiha Sasuke gritted his teeth fiercely, and there was only a fighting spirit in his eyes. He tried to use the lightning in his hand to cut off the lightning pillar that Qing Yu blasted out in front of him. In the past, Konan, his first technician Hitaki Kakashi, used this technique to cut off the thunder in the sky and named it Reikiri. What he can do with Kakashi Eye, Sasuke can do the same. This moment, facing the thunder and lightning coming from the bombardment, Sasuke didn't have any fear, even his eyes were fierce, and he roared. Drink ah! Arc jumping, Lei Guang was boiling. Finally, 2 rays of lightning, at the midpoint of the two, collided. Bang! The huge impact sound came out, and at the same time, accompanied by the thunder and lightning, it continued to be heard. However, the next moment, Uchiha Sasuke's body, as if hit by a cannonball, flew out unexpectedly. Puff! Boom! The moment his body hit the cave wall, a mouthful of blood spurted out. However, he at this moment, but he didn't care about the physical pain at all, but looked at Qing Yu in amazement. His gaze suddenly became horrified. How can this be? Lightning that looks so faint, why is there such an incredible power? What exactly is this lightning style? Sasuke froze completely. He has always been good at lightning style, but at this moment, he can't explain the situation in front of him. At this moment, his right arm was severely injured by lightning. Now, he seriously doubted. Kakashi cut off the sky thunder, it is a rumor. In the entire cave, at this moment, there was no sound and silence. And until then, Orochimaru, who had been quiet for a long time, turned dark, looked at Sasuke, and spoke helplessly. With a low and hoarse voice, he slowly said, Give it up, SARS. Qing Yu Kun's golden pupil, evil king true eye, has the power above all pupil techniques. Whether it is Sharingan or Mangekyo Sharingan, any illusion in his place is equivalent to a neutralization operation. Your attack has long been seen through, and his 5-attribute escape technique is not something you can contend with. Orochimaru said helplessly. In fact, what he said now is very tactful. After all, not long ago, Orochimaru has just seen 2 fairy-level battles. 1. Qing Yu's White Sword Fox Ghost. 2. Qing Yu's Uchiha Madara. After watching the 2-century matchups, watching the second pillar's fight, it feels like a joke. Therefore, he had to remind him tactfully, if you want to say it bluntly. That is a very simple sentence. You Uchiha Sasuke, your current strength, is not worthy to fight Qing Yu. But it would be too hurtful to say such a thing. At this moment, Orochimaru's voice fell. Uchiha Sasuke, who was stunned, was shocked in an instant. This, what? The eyes above all pupil skills. True eyes of the evil king. Sasuke shrank his pupils in disbelief, and looked towards Qing Yu's eyes. But I saw the pair of golden pupils. At this moment, the light was shining, like a flame that never extinguished, swaying and burning. Sasuke froze completely. This is the first time he has observed these eyes so carefully. It was also the first time that he felt the slight pressure from these golden pupils. It's like a god overlooking the world, without joy or sorrow, but above all else. Advertisement. Sasuke's brain went blank for a moment. This man, what on earth is it coming from? What exactly are his eyes? Countless confusions, at the same time, all were assembled in Sasuke's mind. 3 years ago, when he faced Qing Yu, it's like encountering a huge mountain that is difficult to climb, full of oppression. And now 3 years later, he once again faced Qing Yu, who appeared. It feels like it is no longer a huge mountain, but a vast ocean, which is difficult to cross. No, don't talk about crossing. You can't even look at the edge. This golden-eyed man, a veritable monster, exists. After a long silence, Sasuke finally lowered his arrogant head for the first time, gritted his teeth, and spoke very unwillingly. Why? Why does a guy like you come here to help me defeat Uchiha Itachi? Obviously we have nothing to do with each other, right? Or, is there a grudge between you and Uchiha Itachi? As soon as Sasuke's voice fell, Qing Yu suddenly brightened his eyes and chuckled lightly. He knows, the fish has taken the bait. Since Urzuzi took the initiative to ask the reason, it was tantamount to accepting help. Thus, the later plans can be more logical, thought of here. Qing Yu's gaze flickered, raising his eyes and chuckling. Well, the reason is simple, I just don't like that guy. However, it would seem that I was too narrow-minded when I shot him. So it's best to leave it to you. Aren't you just about to finish revenge against that guy? Then we can just work together. Qing Yu is the old actor, for the reason, naturally he just opened his mouth. And after the voice fell, Sasuke was startled for a moment, and then lowered his eyes again. Muttered to himself like a dream, is it subsequently? He suddenly raised his left arm and wiped the bloodline off the corner of his mouth severely. Then, reluctantly stood up and looked at Qing Yu. His eyes became extraordinarily determined and sharp, and he said solemnly. In that case, then I'll cooperate, as long as Zhao Zhao can defeat Uchiha Itachi, I can agree to any conditions. As soon as the voice fell, there was a loud noise. This moment, Uchiha Sasuke, as if returning to the night of annihilation. In the eyes, the bloody figure appeared again, in his heart. There is only monstrous anger and hatred, just as he had received Orochimaru's help in the first place. Now, he also received Qing Yu's help in the same way. And at the moment, after hearing this answer, in an instant, Qing Yu and Orochimaru's faces showed similar smiles at the same time. It succeeded. Although it took a little bit of effort, it didn't take much effort. Next moment, Qing Yu nodded, looked at Orochimaru, and smiled. Then next, just leave it to you to explain to him. Clear. Orochimaru nodded slightly, with a shining smile in his eyes. He can't wait to see what will happen to Sasuke's sage body test. And at this moment, Sasuke on the side suddenly thought of something, and raised his eyes to look at Qing Yu. And many more. I want to ask, husband, compared with Uchiha Itachi, who is better? Chapter 244 Rinnegan Awakens. Are you holding a speech here? Subscription? Advertisement. Hearing Sasuke's sudden questioning. For a moment, both Qing Yu and Orochimaru were slightly stunned. Next moment, their expressions suddenly became a little weird. As a result, the entire cave fell into silence. The silence was a bit awkward. See this? Sasuke's brows suddenly wrinkled, and he spoke in confusion. What's wrong? However, after the voice fell, the next moment, Qing Yu didn't have any reaction yet, and Orochimaru on the side suddenly laughed. Then, in Sasuke's confused gaze, Orochimaru looked over, grinned and showed a smile on the side of his mouth, licked his mouth, and smiled. You probably don't know yet, Sas. Even your very arrogant elder brother, in front of Qing Yu-kun, he would obediently bow his head and shout senior. Hearing this, Sasuke's pupils suddenly shrank and froze. Even Uchiha Itachi will call senior when he sees Qing Yu? This. Sasuke immediately looked at Qing Yu, in fact. Although his exact age is not clear, it seems that he is only in his early 20s. Ninjas of the same age as Uchiha Itachi in this case, still need to call senior. Sasuke naturally fell in love. Incredible. At this moment, Orochimaru's eyes gleamed slightly, and he chuckled. Sas, it seems necessary to talk to you about science. Uchiha Itachi is indeed a rare genius in today's ninja world. His strength is so strong that even I have to retreat. But if compared with this Qing Yu sang, the gap is probably equal to the ants and the crows. Orochimaru's series of voices fell. Sasuke, who was already confused, suddenly shook his pupils again, his face changed slightly, and he looked at Orochimaru in disbelief. Wait. The gap is equal to ants and crows? This is F******** G a bit outrageous. To know, Uchiha Itachi is one of the strongest existences of the Uchiha clan who started Mangekyo Sharingan, and there is no doubt that it is a Hokage-level figure. Even though Sasuke hates him, he still has to respect his strength. And now, Orochimaru actually said in front of Qing Yu, Uchiha Itachi is like an ant? At this moment, Sasuke's thoughts were completely interrupted, and his brain was completely blank. He can no longer imagine how terrifying his true strength is when he can treat cage-level ninjas as ants. Aware of this, Sasuke's eyes returned to Qing Yu's body again, extremely solemn. At this time, Qing Yu smiled helplessly and shook his head and said casually. Exaggerated, Orochimaru. Don't write anymore, just start our next enhancement plan. Yes. Orochimaru nodded, then his eyes shone, and he smiled in a hoarse voice. Please come with me, too. Talking, he turned around. Walked towards the left fork on the inside of the cave. Qing Yu and Sasuke naturally followed behind him and remained silent. Qing Yu's steps are very leisurely, with a loose expression. On the side, Sasuke's eyes were dignified, and he was obviously worried. After a while, after passing through the cave like a maze, they suddenly came to a closed room, which was filled with all kinds of weird instruments and operating tables. Seeing this picture, Sasuke suddenly frowned and said, operating room? The voice fell. Orochimaru in front stopped abruptly, turned around, grinned and said, Yes, operating room. I don't know Sasuke-kun, have you heard of the reason why I was kicked out of Konoha? Advertisement. As soon as he said this, Sasuke suddenly showed a strange look, saying, I heard that you were conducting a horrible human experiment? Sasuke said tentatively. In fact, a CEG, in the village, he rarely hears mention of the defected Sannin, so he doesn't know much insider. And after the voice fell, Orochimaru suddenly showed a satisfied smile and said, Yes, but it's only half right. At the beginning, the human experiment I did was not an ordinary experiment. It's a pilot project about the ability to replicate the great ninja god First Hokage Senju Hashirama. When the voice fell, Sasuke's heart suddenly shrank. Copy First Hokage. However, before he could think carefully, suddenly, Qing Yu, who hadn't spoken for a long time, raised his eyes slightly and frowned. Where are you talking here, Orochimaru? Quickly talk about the key points. The Orochimaru who heard the words was taken aback for a moment, then immediately reacted, and quickly coughed awkwardly, and said, Ahem, okay. Orochimaru cleaned up the nonsense and looked at Sasuke, solemnly. In fact, Sasuke, this time we decided to strengthen you, is to implant First Hokage cells into your body. Take this, you will have both the Senju and Uchiha bloodlines at the same time. And it is very likely that in the near future, directly awakening beyond Sharingan's ultimate pupil technique, Rinnegan, known as the Eye of the Immortal. Sasuke's face suddenly changed, and his breathing stopped on the spot. After listening to Orochimaru's words, he froze almost instantly. One by one nouns violently hit his field of knowledge, unexpectedly. Transplanting cells from First Hokage? Rinnegan? Known as the ultimate pupil technique of the fairy's eye. This? What is this? At this time, before he could think about it, Orochimaru continued to smile again and said, And, more than that, after obtaining the transplanted cells, you will also gain the ability to control wood style, equivalent to First Hokage. Presumably you have probably heard of it, Senju Hashirama, back then, with the legend of the wood style Megatron Ninja World, right? Another word fell. Uchiha Sasuke suddenly felt a chill from behind. First Hokage's Mutong. Of course he knew it, more than just knowing, that is almost the most powerful general technique recognized by the entire ninja world. It is so strong that some people will even panic after walking and tripping over a tree branch. Nani? As expected of First Hokage Hasimam, and now, after transplanting his cells, can you get this kind of power comparable to the god of ninjas? Sasuke took a light breath, and his eyes sank. Finally, with the solemn expression on his face, even the expression in his eyes suddenly became sharp. He knows, this is probably the biggest change in his strength. Also a possibility, it was his biggest trump card in defeating Uchiha Itachi. Rinnegan plus Mutong. Sasuke suddenly raised his left hand and slowly clenched his fist. I see, Orochimaru, bring it on, go straight ahead. Wrong. As soon as the voice fell, Orochimaru was taken aback for a while. This, I haven't told you about side effects yet. Hearing this, Sasuke's face remained completely unchanged, but his eyes were indifferent, and he said quietly. No need. As long as it can defeat Uchiha Itachi, no matter how big the side effect is, it doesn't matter. Advertisement, so come on. This moment, the look in his eyes and his words are like seeing death as home. The resolution of revenge, everything else has been covered up. Then, Orochimaru, who was a little stunned, glanced at Qing Yu. Seeing that he didn't have any special expressions, nodded and said hoarsely. Okay, then come with me. The cells of Senju Hashirama have been sealed by me for a long time, and it will take some time to take them out. After some time, Scientist Orochimaru is very skilled, connecting various instruments to Sasuke's body to monitor various characteristics at any time. On the other end of the instrument, some indescribable things are placed inside. It is the tissue cells of first Hokage Senju Hashirama. Finally, after everything is ready, Orochimaru stood in front of the operating table, exhaled slowly, and after looking at Sasuke, he looked at Qing Yu in front of him. To be honest, if it weren't for Qing Yu's promise to him, it would help suppress the repulsiveness of Hashirama cells. He doesn't want to do this transplant experiment on Sasuke. After all, such a good body, it would be a pity if it is broken by Hashirama cells. Spray. Orochimaru felt helplessly in his heart. Even though he still wants to take Sasuke's body as his own in his heart. However, Qing Yu spoke up. Of course he has to make way for Qing Yu's plan. While thinking, he raised his hand and turned on the instrument. Ding! 10 minutes later, within the cave base. An ear-shattering loud noise burst out. Boom! In front of the operating table, an invisible chakra shockwave suddenly rushed out of Sasuke's body. Next moment, all the shockwaves instantly set off a hurricane, directly destroying all the instruments in front of it. And the next moment, base, with the surge of chakra. Uchiha Sasuke on the operating table opened his eyes after a long absence. And at this moment, I saw in his eyes, the original blood red faded instantly, as if it melted into the water. At the same time, light purple light gradually emerged, and circles of concentric circles like Madara of water waves appeared on the pupils instantly. Exudes a breathtakingly powerful deterrent. Seeing this picture, Orochimaru on the side suddenly showed a look of surprise in his eyes. It succeeded. This is the eye of the fairy, Rinnegan. Not only has there been no rejection, but it has even been perfectly integrated in the absolute sense. It's as if these two powers should have been combined into one. It's so harmonious, Orochimaru grinned, showing an extremely excited smile. After failing dozens of experimental subjects that year, Orochimaru hardly had any hope for this experiment. Unexpectedly, today's Uchiha Sasuke is so smooth. And, as Qing Yu said, after the transplantation was completed, Sas really directly awakened the so-called fairy eye, Rinnegan. Could it be that this is the powerful bloodline power of the Uchiha clan and the Senju clan combined? Orochimaru thought excitedly, however, what he didn't know was. At this moment, Qing Yu sitting aside, with a smile on his face, watching everything quietly. Of course he knows, what is really special is not the blood of Uchiha and Senju. It's Sasuke's, Indra, status. Only when he was reincarnated as Indra Chakra can he perfectly merge and awaken Rinnegan after transplanting Senju Hashirama's cells. At this point, just like back then, same as Uchiha Madara who reincarnated as Indra. Chapter 245 from now on, take it back one by one, seeking subscription. Advertisement all of these, naturally, it was already in Qing Yu's expectation. In fact, he already knew the result when he mentioned this Sasuke cell transplant plan to Orochimaru before. Because of this, he didn't worry about any side effects at all. And the so-called shots to suppress rejection is nothing more than for Orochimaru. What Qing Yu is best at is the operation of the soul. Naturally, things at the physical level, at the cellular and genetic level are not very good at it. And at the moment, Qing Yu raised his eyes slightly and looked at Sasuke in front of him. How, Sasuke? The feeling of being enhanced by a big version, shouldn't it be good? The voice fell. Orochimaru on the side also looked towards Sasuke. His eyes were also very expectant, with a smile that could not be concealed. Quite a feeling of excitement but at this moment. Sasuke in the front, after hearing Qing Yu's words, slowly sat up from the operating table, his eyes exuding a lilac gleam, as indifferent as a god. In his eyes, it seemed as if he had not seen anything and as if he had seen everything out of sight. He remained silent, not pretending to be forced, but feeling the wonderful changes in his body. Because of this, he suddenly felt the so-called fairy eyes and sage body are such mighty powers. Whether it is Rinnegan after evolution or the body after fusion, it is full of vitality and powerful force. It was as if there was a tremendous force, constantly pouring from the inside of the body. This feeling, it's completely unprecedented, after feeling for a while. Sasuke finally lowered his eyes and exhaled extremely slowly. Later, he looked towards Qing Yu and Orochimaru. After a moment of silence, he lowered his eyes and said in a low voice. It turns out that this is the power of the fairy. Yes, I have clearly felt the powerful, contained in it. Talking, he slowly raised his hand and clenched his fist. At this moment, his eyes suddenly became sharp and decisive, extremely sharp, and said in a condensed voice. Finally, it can be completely broken with Uchiha Itachi. The voice fell. There was silence everywhere. Orochimaru was startled for a moment, and then he couldn't help showing a helpless expression. Spray. SARS is worthy of SARS. Obviously he has gained such a powerful force, but Isshin still thinks about it. Orochimaru couldn't help but sigh with emotion, his helplessness. Naturally, it's not just because of this, and even more because he knew that he could no longer occupy this body. Because he had already felt it, Sasuke said the aura of change. From this moment on, he is no longer the shabby Sharingan kid before. Orochimaru has a hunch, in the end, he is likely to become an existence beyond Uchiha Madara. Uchiha clan, the real strongest, after a while. Qing Yu and Orochimaru left the cave. After the transformation, Sasuke was alone to exercise his newly acquired strength. The moment I walked outside, Orochimaru grinned and said with a smile. Qing Yu-sama, next, we need to take the initiative to contact Uchiha Madara and they meet Sasuke? Orochimaru asked curiously. When I heard from Qing Yu that he planned to let Sasuke join Uchiha Madara and Obito's camp, Orochimaru was of course stunned. But now, after realizing Qing Yu's endurance model, he is full of expectations instead. And heard that, Qing Yu chuckled and shook his head, saying, "Need not. Let go, let Sasuke finish his road of revenge first. As for Uchiha Obito, advertisement. We don't need any arrangements. When Uchiha Itachi gets a trace, they will take the initiative to find Sasuke. By the time, you just need to open one eye and close one eye." Qing Yu said leisurely while walking forward. The voice fell. Orochimaru's eyelids suddenly twitched. Damn it. Have you thought about it? After Sasuke defeats Itachi, Obito will automatically find the door? This Qing Yu-sama is really a master of calculation. Understood. After thinking for a moment, Orochimaru can only answer honestly. The picture turns. Came to the territory of the country of grass in a valley at the border. Now, a space Uzumaki suddenly appeared. Next moment, I saw two black figures appearing from Uzumaki in an instant. The blood-red eyes bloomed with light. They are Uchiha Obito, an impure world reincarnation Uchiha Madara with a broken arm. Now, after appearing, Uchiha Madara's face was slightly calm, her eyes were cold, and she said indifferently, "What are you doing, Obito? Should I be a deserter in front of this kind of junior ninja, Uchiha Madara?" By now, it is naturally impossible for him to be unaware of the situation. Just now, when the golden pupil Qing Yu is preparing for the next attack, Uchiha Obito suddenly used Mangekyo Sharingan and took him to escape. Shame. Lost your lord. Uchiha Madara naturally disdains this. At this time, Obito's face is also ugly. His eyes were extremely complicated, his face was dark, and he said in a deep voice. This time, it was indeed helpless. You should have noticed too. That golden pupil has weird abilities in every aspect. Even, the spells he used in the battle didn't seem to need to use chakra at all. Furthermore, his ability to suppress the speeding recovery of impure world reincarnation is the first time even I have seen it. Have to guard. Obito looked at Uchiha Madara solemnly and said solemnly. Although you are now resurrected in the state of impure world reincarnation. However, Rinnegan is still in Nagato's hands. If we want to continue to complete Project Tasuki no Mi, we must find a way to take back Rinnegan. And this, it's impossible to do it with me and Ju alone. After all, today's Shao has that Qing Yu, and his strength is completely unpredictable. So, I will take you out of the emergency. This is not to escape, but to save your strength so that you can better study this opponent. Therefore, the subsequent Project Tasuki no Mi will proceed normally. Obito's eyes were dark, and he spoke very seriously. And after listening, Uchiha Madara's eyes moved slightly, and the expression on his face was slightly closed. Mentioned Project Tasuki no Mi, of course he still knows which is more serious. If Obito says so, it's true that Qing Yu, although he is only a junior in age, no matter if it is tactical thinking or combat effectiveness, he can be regarded as a superb level in the ninja world. In Uchiha Madara's long ninja career, Senju Hashirama is the only one who can give him this feeling. Really, it is an opponent worthy of attention and research. At this time, suddenly, the mutation happened. On the ground, a creature that looked like a pitcher plant suddenly stuck out its head, and then, the whole body floated out of the ground. 0. For flowers. Advertisement. The moment Uchiha Madara saw him, Uchiha Madara didn't have the slightest surprise. Are you here? Absolutely? The guy who has been watching the battle in the distance just now, should it be you? As soon as this word came out, the time that had just appeared was taken aback for a moment. Afterwards, White Zetsu on the left side grinned suddenly and smiled weirdly. Ah, as expected, Uchiha Madara-sama. Even me, who is so good at concealing chakra, was discovered by you. What a powerful feeling that has been missing for a long time. But it's okay, the Qing Yu of the golden pupil shouldn't find me, right? White Zetsu said in a frivolous tone. However, as soon as the words fell, Uchiha Obito, who was on the side, suddenly moved his eyes slightly, his face changed, and then suddenly he spoke solemnly. No wrong, what if that guy has already found out? ... Exclamation mark question mark. Quote, hearing this, suddenly was taken aback. Found? This however, the conversation between the two of them was confusing, but Uchiha Madara was puzzled, he frowned and said. 0. What happened? Isn't Ju's identity exposed yet? The voice fell, Obito here suddenly showed a helpless expression, then shook his head and said. At the beginning, only my identity was revealed, and then I was stripped from Akatsuki. And Ju has always stayed in Shaozong, responsible for helping me monitor their news and bring intelligence. Before he found the trail of Orochimaru, I was able to chase over. And forcing him to bring out your impure world reincarnation summoning. Obito explained quickly. Madara nodded clearly and understood. No wonder at that time, I have always been there with ghosts and never showed up from beginning to end. Turns out, are you afraid of being discovered, however? At this time, Obito frowned and said, not so good. I always feel. Ju Yu's whereabouts may have been discovered by Qing Yu. Heard that, Madara looked over and said indifferently. That kind of thing, it doesn't matter anymore. Yue's concealment ability and action ability, even if you don't stay in the Akatsuki organization, you can easily monitor the intelligence there. By the way, How is Akatsuki's tail beast collection work going on? Madara asked indifferently. This is what he always cares about most. Heard that, Ju said. So far, it seems that 1 tail, 2 tails, and 4 tails have all been captured successfully. 1 tail has been brought back, temporarily confined in Rain Shinobi, while Niu and 4 tails are on their way back. Because of the lack of personnel, the tail beast stripping ceremony has not yet begun. The voice fell. Madara naturally understood. The Magic Dragon 9 sealing technique that strips off the tail beast really needs enough manpower to complete it. Aware of this, Madara looked at Obito and Ju, thought for a moment, raised her eyes, and said indifferently. In that case, next, it's our turn to act. Whether it is Rinnegan, Gedo statue or Jinchuriki. From now on, take it back one by one. Chapter 246. It is still not clear that Qing Yu is the highest combat power? Seeking subscription? Advertisement the next day, early in the morning. Rain Country, in Rain Shinobi Village, above the tower. 2 figures dressed in red clouds and black robes are standing in it. The person on the left, wearing a lavender paper iris flower, is Konan. However, the person standing on her right at the moment is not the indifferent orange-haired puppet Heavenly Dao Pain in the past. But Nagato has recovered his body. I saw him also wearing the red cloud and black robe of Shao organization, staring into the distance. After a while, he said, Konan, the teams that went out to carry out the Tail Beast catch-up mission have all successfully returned to Rain Shinobi Village, right? Konan nodded and replied, yes. The Jinchuriki they brought back have all been restrained according to the method you said. At present, 1 tail, 2 tails, and 4 tails are all ready. Upon hearing this, Nagato nodded. This situation is basically in line with the result he had anticipated. The 1 tail of Sand Shinobi is captured and completed by Qing Yu and Deidara team. The 2nd tail of Thunder Country Cloud Shinobi was captured and completed by the Hidan and Kakuzu team. The 4 tails of Rock Shinobi, the Country of the Earth, was captured by the group of Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame and completed. The only thing that deviated from the plan, it is the 3 tails of Mist Shinobi, the Country of Water. In the original plan, it was originally captured by Konan and Pain personally, and by the way, it was also planned to try to go along with 6 tails in Mist Shinobi. The result was unexpected. They have not officially set off for 077. Uchiha Obito, who had changed his face, led the Fox Ghost of the 6th Night Palace to Rain Shinobi and got into trouble. And it looks like, it's not like an accidental action at all. It's a far-sighted attack. If it weren't for Qing Yu to come to save the field in time, I am afraid that Shao no longer exists now. Therefore, the capture mission of 3 tails was delayed. Fortunately, there are already 3 tail beasts completed, which is a kind of comfort. Thought of here, as soon as Nagato's eyes moved, he immediately called out the Heavenly Dao Pain in the dark, and then said, in that case, let's gather all of them. As soon as Nagato's voice fell. Konan was taken aback for a moment, then he was surprised. Are we going to start the tail beast stripping ceremony? Of course she knows, in order to maintain Akatsuki's pattern, Nagato can't show up in person, so he still needs to show his face in the face of Heavenly Way Pen. But she didn't understand why Nagato chose to gather at this time. That's why there's this speculation. After hearing the words, Nagato shook his head and said, the stripping ceremony is too early. In this period of time, a little too much happened. Since Qing Yu didn't say that the tail beast withdrawal plan needs to be started now, it means that there are some more important things to deal with. So, I want to hear his opinion first. By the way, also look at the reactions of other members. Nagato's voice fell. Konan nodded clearly. Of course she understood the underlying meaning of Nagato's words. In fact, since the beginning of the conversation, in their hearts, they have reached a consensus. Akatsuki's original peace plan for the nuclear deterrence of the tail beast weapons, at present, can no longer stand at all. On the contrary, it is the deterrence check and balance proposed by Qing Yu, which can bring a long-term balance. Therefore, tailed beast stripping ceremony, there is really no need to rush. In the cave of Gedo statue, Akatsuki's 9 members are all in place. Among them, naturally also include the movie Emperor members such as Qing Yu and Uchiha Itachi after returning, as well as the insider like Black Zetsu. I won't say more gossip. Tiandao Pain spoke calmly with his always indifferent tone. His eyes swept across everyone's faces, and he said indifferently. This time the Jinchuriki capture mission is progressing well. But, ADVERTISEMENT, also change. Not long ago, Uchiha Obito, who was excluded from the Akatsuki organization, led the Fox Ghost from the Vulture Palace to attack Rain Shinobi Village. As soon as Pain's faint voice fell, in an instant, the audience was silent. Except for Qing Yu and Deidara, almost all the other members had their pupils shrunk, and they were stunned. Whether it was Kakuzu or Hidan, or Uchiha Itachi and Kisame, they were all stuck. What's the situation? Damn it, Akatsuki traitor Obito has formed an alliance with the Fox Ghost of Suya Palace. These 2 guys who couldn't fight together came to attack Rain Shinobi Village at the same time. This kind of unthinkable outrageous news naturally shocked them. Especially Uchiha Itachi, who has had a relationship with Fox Ghosts a long time ago. Now, after hearing this, in the depths of his Sharingan's eyes, a flash of horror suddenly flashed. What? That powerful Suya Palace Fox Ghost, Jing Ran and Uchiha Obito have come together. What's going on? Didn't they still snatch Sharingan desperately at the time? In Uchiha Itachi's mind, I remember clearly, on the night of extermination many years ago. When he and the masked man were about to leave Konoha, they were stopped by the fox ghost who claimed to be under Danzo. And at that time, he was ruthlessly defeated by the fox ghost. As a result, the masked man had to make a move, using Mangekyo Sharingan's time and space power to absorb him in. However, I don't know why later, the fox ghost disappeared in his Mangekyo space somehow. And, appear next time, it's already the Battle of Jinyuchung, which is famous in the ninja world. All of these, it makes the former Uchiha Itachi very unbelievable. But now, after hearing what Pain said suddenly there was a very bold speculation in his heart. Just in case, as early as that year, is the masked man and the fox ghost acting at the scene? Aware of this, Itachi's eyes suddenly became more solemn. If this is the case, so, the conspiracy of the two of them back then was a bit too big. Just when he thought of this, Hoshigaki Kisame on the side suddenly grinned, showing a weird smile, and muttered to himself.
Spray, as that's so, no wonder the place outside Rain Shinobi has become a messy ruin.
Sure enough, it's a trace after the battle, as expected. In fact, when they first returned to Rain Shinobi Village. Naturally, I immediately noticed the huge ruins outside Rain Shinobi Village. But I didn't know the reason before. Now combined with Pain's words, it is not difficult to imagine the scene at that time. It is clear, Uchiha Obito at the time, I definitely wanted to take advantage of the time when all Akatsuki members were out, and attack Rain Shinobi Village to destroy Akatsuki's foundation. Result, but they were beaten back alive by Pen thought of here. After listening to Kisami's words, Hidan on the side suddenly showed a very surprised expression, and sucked in a cold breath. Hiss, Masaka. The collapsed area was originally a trace of the battle with the enemy? You really deserve to be the leader. When I first saw it, I thought it was an earthquake or a natural disaster like a meteorite. Hidan looked at Pain with an expression of admiration. Obviously, advertisement he has never had any explosive power, and he still has some awe of people with such a strong power. And as soon as this word came out, Uchiha Itachi's heart couldn't help but twitch again. Could it be that did Pen really defeat the Fox Ghost plus Obito combination? His Rinnegan power is so fierce, Itachi's heart is dumb. Although over the years, his strength has grown a lot. However, if he were to fight both the Suyagong Fox Ghost and Uchiha Obito at the same time, it would never be possible for him to take the whole body easily. But I didn't expect that Pain in front of me turned out to be. However, just when Itachi thought about it halfway. However, he saw Heavenly Dao Pain in front of him glanced over, expressionlessly. You misunderstood. It was not me who repelled them, it was Qing Yu. At that time, he happened to return from the one-tail capture mission, so he shot and completely repelled the two opponents with absolute advantage. As soon as Pen's voice fell, this time, the audience was even more silent. Almost everyone's thoughts were interrupted at this moment, and the brain was completely blank. They even thought Pain used the wrong word this. What is the situation? Repel the Fox Ghost Obito with one's own strength. This is 2F********* ridiculous. However, no matter how they stared at Pen still had no expression on his face, just added faintly. This is a fact. If you have witnessed that battle, you can understand what I mean. Actually still, absolute advantage, there was no sound. 4 faces are stunned. Everyone's eyes slowly looked towards Qing Yu's direction with an unbelievable expression. Especially Uchiha Itachi, this moment was even more sluggish. Even he, who has always been calm, they all stopped breathing involuntarily. His eyes stared at Qing Yu stubbornly, and his thoughts were extremely complicated. This, you again? Even Uchiha Obito and Fox Ghost together are not your opponents? The eyes gathered on Qing Yu's face, full of shock and doubt. At this moment, Deidara put her hands on her chest and grinned and laughed. Hey, what's the matter with your eyes? Obviously, I have known Senior Qing Yu for so long, isn't it clear that he is the Shao no highest fighter, huh? As soon as the words came out, there was another silence. And at the moment, Hidan suddenly secretly looked in the direction of Heavenly Dao Pain. In his opinion, as the supreme leader of Akatsuki, he is bound to be upset with 4.6. After all, from beginning to end, he led the organization as an absolutely powerful leader.
However, to his surprise, at this moment, Tian Dao Pain's expression remained unchanged.
His face was as calm as water, and his eyes did not fluctuate. It seems to have acquiesced to what Deidara just said. Aware of this, Hidan immediately felt sorry. He suddenly felt that Shao's leader seemed to have begun to undergo some changes. In fact, it's not just him, even Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame on the side began to discover. The core of Akatsuki, I don't know when, it seems to have suddenly changed from Tian Dao Pain to Qing Yu. But at this moment, suddenly, Kakuzu, who hadn't spoken for a long time, actually spoke.
I saw that his face was indifferent, his eyes lifted, and after a glance at Deidara, he said without fluctuations.
I am not interested in who is the strongest. However, the purpose of our gathering this time should be for Jinchuriki's tail beast stripping ceremony, right? So, when will the Magic Dragon 9 Seals begin? Chapter 247 Worthy of being a ruthless person, don't hesitate at all, seeking subscription. Advertisement. As soon as Kakuzu's voice fell, everyone's thoughts stopped immediately, and then they suddenly reacted.
This is also, according to the plan set before, after capturing the Jinchuriki of the tail beast, the ritual of stripping the tail beast should indeed begin.
The 9 Seals of Magic Dragon, that Kakuzu said was the necessary sealing technique they used to strip the tail beast. The special point of this technique is that it can completely extract the power of the tail beast from Jinchuriki's body, thereby facilitating the normal progress of the tail beast weapon plan. However, it also has a major drawback. That is, to perform this technique requires a rather large chakra as a medium.
Therefore, it is necessary for all members of the Xiao organization to cooperate with Tiandao Pain to perform this technique in order to ensure the success of the technique.
That's why Kakuzu has this question. He took it for granted that the ceremony should be started this time. And at the moment, when Uchiha Itachi, Kisame and others heard this, they also reacted immediately and looked at Pain's direction one after another. However, next moment, to their surprise, Pain's eyes lifted slightly, and he suddenly said in an indifferent tone. The stripping ceremony is temporarily suspended. It is not the main purpose of this meeting that the magic dragon has 9 letters. As soon as Pain's voice fell, at this moment, not only Itachi, Kakuzu and others, but also Deidara on the side, all of a sudden, their expressions sighed, and they were stunned. What's the meaning? The Tail Beast weapon project was said to be interrupted? Stop doing it. So why did we work hard to get Jinchuriki back from the villages? Do you want to visit? Thought of here. Deidara frowned instantly, looked at Pain, and said loudly.
Hello, what do you mean by stop? Oh 2. I managed to beat that Sunagaker one-tail person Zuka.
Deidara spoke very loudly. Because of the long-awaited next to Qing Yu, he no longer had the odd pen.
At this time, after his voice fell, Uchiha Itachi on the side suddenly moved in his heart and noticed something.
His eyes lightly lifted, looking at Pain in front of him, frowning pretendingly, and said. Suddenly interrupted the plan? Could it be? Is it because of the Uchiha Obito invasion not long ago? It made you change your mind? Uchiha Itachi said in a guessing tone. It seems to be outspoken. After spending so many years in Akatsuki's organization, he now naturally has all kinds of acting talents. At this time, Pain was silent for a while, his gaze quietly glanced at Qing Yu in the distance. Corresponding, Qing Yu naturally noticed his gaze. Then, he just smiled, turned towards Pain without showing a trace, and nodded slowly. After seeing Qing Yu's hint, naturally, Nagato's heart must suddenly understand what he meant. He knows, it's time to say, that's it. Thinking of this, he immediately looked at Itachi again with Pain's indifferent gaze, expressionless, and said indifferently. Yes. Something did happen, and it's about you Uchiha Itachi. The voice fell, and the surroundings suddenly fell silent. Everyone looked at Itachi at the same time in an instant. As for Uchiha Itachi himself, his breath stopped for a while, and his expression was slightly startled. And many more, about me. What's going on? Could it be that what I told Konoha village back then was leaked? This. Uchiha Itachi's skeptical gaze turned to his old teammate Hoshigaki Kisame for the first time. After all, this guy was inserted by Obito at the beginning. Advertisement specially responsible for monitoring his every move, it can be said to be a spy. And after Obito was kicked out of Akatsuki, this guy's tendency became a little erratic. Even Uchiha Itachi cannot guarantee what his position will be. Therefore, if you reveal a flaw, then the greatest possibility was discovered by Kisame. However, to his surprise, Kisame at this moment, after listening to Pain's words, his expression was even more pitiful than him. Obviously, this guy didn't even know aware of this. Itachi's heart suddenly became more confused, he pretended to look calmly towards Pain, his eyes calmly condensed. About me. No doubt, next, no matter what you hear. He has already made various plans. Pain's eyes remained unchanged, and he still spoke calmly. I received information, recently, a person appeared in the ninja world, who is constantly tracking down your location and Akatsuki's information. And the appearance of this person, it is very likely to hinder the normal progress of our organization's plan. As soon as this word came out, everyone including Uchiha Itachi was stunned. Someone is tracking Uchiha Itachi and Akatsuki? Actually, it is extremely likely to hinder Akatsuki's plan. This. Who can have such strength? Everyone is waiting for Pain to say his identity. And Uchiha Itachi, at this moment, is even more engrossed. Who is it? The voice fell. At this moment, the atmosphere of the audience condenses, and it suddenly becomes quiet. It was so quiet that he could directly hear the breathing of everyone present. At this time, Pain faintly spit out a few words without any haste. One of the annihilated Uchiha clan, your brother, Uchiha Sasuke. Pain's voice fell off. All the people present were shocked, and their faces were different. FK. And many more. What's the situation? Uchiha Itachi's younger brother? This not only did that guy survive, he even started to trace back the whereabouts of Uchiha Itachi and Akatsuki. Good guy, it looks like this is here for revenge? For a moment, a series of thoughts flashed through everyone's mind. And at the moment, even Uchiha Itachi, who had always been calm, couldn't help but froze slightly after hearing this, and froze. Is it actually him, Sass? Didn't he practice in Orochimaru? When started to trace me in Shao, of course, Itachi was dumbfounded.
Ever since he sneaked into Konoha and learned that Sasuke was taken away by Orochimaru, he has been paying attention to their tracks.
And not long ago, he only confirmed it completely. Not only does Sasuke have no life-threatening, but he is practicing assiduously. After hearing the news, Itachi was relieved, but now I didn't expect. He traced Itachi's information and it reached Pain's ears. Not so good. Uchiha Itachi lowered his eyes suddenly, his face a little ugly. He knows, in the past Akatsuki rules, all Shao's enemies were dispatched and annihilated by Qing Yu.
And now, in case Pen also sees Sasuke as an obstacle to Shao, it is very likely that Qing Yu will be invited directly to annihilate him.
Advertisement: if that happens, Sasuke will definitely die. Uchiha Itachi knows very well, once Qing Yu takes a serious shot, no one can stop it. Not to mention Sasuke, even if he fights Uchiha and turns on Mangekyo Sharingan and Susanoo, he may not be able to fight. He knows this better than anyone. We must find a way to prevent this from happening. Thought of here, Itachi's heart sank suddenly. Before he had time to think about it, he quickly raised his eyes and looked over, pretending to be indifferent and condensed. I see. Leave it to me. I'll take care of Uchiha Sasuke. I will never let him hinder Akatsuki. Uchiha Itachi spoke with a cold expression like never before. The surrounding air seemed to drop a few degrees because of this. The voice fell, all the people around suddenly stagnated. Off. Sure enough, he is a ruthless person. Even his own brother is so unrelenting in dealing with it. As expected of Uchiha Itachi, it's really awesome. However, Qing Yu on this side raised his eyebrows suddenly, showing a smile that seemed like nothing. Spray, have to admit, the movie of this actor is truly outdated. Obviously loves his stupid Odudu so deeply, but can show such a terrifying killing intent in an instant. This kind of professionalism is absolutely top-notch. At this time, Pain was still expressionless, and said lightly. Does anyone else object? Pain glanced over the faces of the other members one by one, and finally stayed on Deidara's face. However, this time, even Deidara, who had always been noisy, was silent. 077 Objection? Are you kidding me? It's just the internal affairs of the Uchiha clan? A brother who was killed by the whole family came to find a brother who killed the whole family for revenge. If you even intervene in this kind of thing, it will be too cheap. And, they also did not worry about the failure of Uchiha Itachi mission. After all, this guy was the man who wiped out the entire Uchiha clan back then. With his powerful Mangekyo Sharingan and illusion skills, if you get serious, you don't need to mention the strength at all, and you can properly organize the top 3. If even he wants to question, maybe Pain or Qing Yu can only do it himself. Since there are no objections, let's decide so. After a while, Pain spoke like a sentence, lightly. Uchiha Itachi, it's up to you to destroy Uchiha Sasuke and eliminate Akatsuki's threat. Yes. Uchiha Itachi answered in a low voice. His eyes were calm, like a lake covered by ice, no feelings. Asterisk. Shortly after, this Shao organized the plenary meeting. It ended in a sudden ending. No doubt, because Uchiha Itachi wants to set out immediately to wipe out his younger brother Uchiha Itachi, to wipe out Akatsuki's threat. Naturally, the tail beast stripping ceremony was not carried out. Because there is not enough manpower, and after a while, everyone also began to leave. Finally, within the base, there were only Pen, Konan, and Qing Yu who returned quietly. And at the moment, after a moment of silence, Konan looked at Qing Yu, his expression somewhat admiring. Really, the situation is just as you expected, Qing Yu-kun. After hearing Uchiha Sasuke's news, Uchiha took the initiative to carry out the annihilation mission. Moreover, there really is no hesitation. Chapter 248 Sasuke? There shouldn't be Mangekyo yet, right? Seeking subscription. Advertisement. In fact, Uchiha Sasuke's revenge news. Of course it wasn't the intelligence that the two of them made up casually. Instead, I heard it from Qing Yu, and I learned the news before the meeting started. Therefore, Nagato just took a look at Qing Yu and asked him what he meant. Upon learning that the time has come, no longer hesitate. This information was directly communicated to Uchiha Itachi himself. And as a result, just as Qing Yu had previously expected, Uchiha Itachi took the initiative without hesitation. Now, after hearing Konan's words, Qing Yu smiled and raised his eyes, saying, it's just some basic inferences. After all, this guy has always had a special feeling for the Uchiha clan. It's not new to make this kind of decision, Qing Yu said casually. At this time, behind Tiandao Pain on the side, I don't know when, the main body Nagato unexpectedly appeared suddenly, wearing a red cloud and black robe. He slowly walked out of the darkness. However, at this moment, his expression has a trace of doubt. While looking at Qing Yu, he said, I still don't quite understand, Qing Yu sang. Why do we need to specifically interrupt Akatsuki's plan to split the tail monster to deal specifically with the boy named Uchiha Sasuke? His strength, logically speaking, should not be as good as Uchiha Itachi? Nagato asked with a frown. In the previous meeting, the words he said were actually just what Qing Yu said to Uchiha Itachi and the others. The specific reasons are actually not clear to him. That's why I asked, and at this time, his voice fell. Konan on the side also showed a somewhat confused expression. To be honest, even the name, they're very strange. Qing Yu's eyes moved slightly, but his face remained unchanged, and he still smiled lightly every day. It's very simple, because Uchiha Sasuke will become one of the most critical anti-deterrents in my plan. As soon as Qing Yu's voice fell, Nagato's and Konan's pupils shrank at the same time, and their faces suddenly changed slightly. They were originally confused, but at this moment, their thoughts suddenly stopped and they were directly stunned. What, and many more, Uchiha Itachi's younger brother turned out to be the key deterrent. It turned out that Qing Yu's plan already unknowingly, has it started in secret? Broken. Nagato suddenly couldn't help taking a breath. Then, the expression on his face suddenly became extremely serious, and he lowered his voice and said seriously. Qing Yu sang. from now on, is the deterrence plan activated? His tone was extremely cautious, however, Qing Yu just flashed the golden pupils, smiled lightly at Nagato, and said leisurely. More or less. Perhaps soon, everything will gradually take shape. So, just wait patiently. I go first, while talking. Qing Yu waved his hand leisurely, turned and left directly. The pace is sloppy, like walking in a leisurely courtyard. At this moment, after hearing Qing Yu's words, Nagato and Konan met once, and both saw a solemn breath in each other's eyes. Finally, Nagato looked at Qing Yu's back again, and said in a condensed voice. Qing Yu sang, this time the battle between Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Sasuke. Who will win? The voice fell, Qing Yu's steps suddenly paused. Afterwards, he raised his head as if thinking about something, turned his back to Konan and Nagato, and whispered. Well, who knows? Before the real battle broke out, everything was still unknown. The voice fell, advertisement he stepped forward again and disappeared into the hole. And Nagato and Konan, but unexpectedly, he was slightly stunned. It was the first time they heard Qing Yu's vague words. Although he used to talk like riddlers, but it has never been like this time. Obviously he has a good understanding of Uchiha Itachi's strength, but he is still undecided. Based on this alone, is enough to explain Uchiha Itachi, who performed this mission, is probably not very good. Thought of here, the two fell silent immediately. But, no matter what, they certainly won't interfere with Qing Yu's plan. He has always been countless, there is absolutely one's own reason for doing anything. 10 minutes later. Rain Shinobi Village, on the street. Qing Yu, who was walking alone in the rain with an umbrella, suddenly met the figure walking in front of him. It was a guy who was also wearing Akatsuki's uniform with black hair and red eyes. It is Uchiha Itachi. Now, his face was still paralyzed as before. Finally, when the two were 3 meters apart, Uchiha Itachi stopped. He stared at Qing Yu with extremely calm eyes and spoke softly without expression and said lightly. Senior Qing Yu, do you know much about Sasuke? Very straightforward opening, it is enough to explain his purpose of looking for Qing Yu. However, Qing Yu didn't stop, but he walked slowly and chuckled as he walked. What are you asking me about your brother? The person who knows him best in this world, shouldn't it be yourself? The voice fell, Itachi's eyes moved slightly, however, his face remained unchanged. Years of actor career has given him perfect expression control ability as a master. He just lowered his eyes slightly, looked at Qing Yu, and said softly. You misunderstood. I just want to know where he is now. As far as I know, he was taken away by Orochimaru as early as 3 years ago. And not long ago, you and Orochimaru crossed again. It stands to reason that you should have heard about him. Please tell me. Uchiha Itachi is as straightforward as ever, speaking very bluntly. This is especially true when in front of Qing Yu. Because he knows, he is not Qing Yu's opponent at all. And when playing psychological warfare, Qing Yu didn't get in at all, it was just a piece of steel plate. Therefore, it's not as convenient as to say it directly. Hearing this, Qing Yu raised his eyebrows slightly, and then smiled and shook his head. I don't know the exact location, but it's probably in the area of Kusano country in Yunokuni. While talking, Qing Yu had already reached Uchiha Itachi's side, and suddenly stopped, tilted his head and looked at the ferret, and said with a smile but a smile. Itachi-san, please don't let the water go, good luck. Talking, he stepped up again and went away under the umbrella. And in the rain, Uchiha Itachi on this side lowered his eyes slightly and said softly. Thanks a lot. The voice fell, he didn't hesitate anymore. Lift up and walk into the distance, under heavy rain. Two similar figures, moving in opposite directions, gradually moved away. The next day, among the borders of Yunokuni, as soon as he emerged from the cliff, Uchiha Obito wearing an orange mask was sitting in it, holding a map in his hand, carefully looking at something. Suddenly, advertisement above the ground, a Nepenthes creature emerged. Noticing this, Obito immediately put down the map in his hand, stared at it, and whispered. How's the situation, Absolute? His voice was as deep as ever. Although he no longer acts as Uchiha Madara now, his voice has not changed much. It seems to have gotten used to it, and at the moment. Juzi looked around, and then spread his perceptual ability towards the surroundings. After a while, he was surprised. What about Madara? Why not? Heard that. Obito was expressionless, indifferently, he's going to do something. If you have any important information, tell me first. After being silent for a while, he looked at Obito again and whispered. Akatsuki's stripping plan for the tail beast has been temporarily suspended. All Jinchuriki were confined in Rain Shinobi Village, and all survived. Currently, Nagato seems to have made Uchiha Itachi's younger brother Uchiha Sasuke the primary target of crusade. Yesterday, it has been arranged for Uchiha Itachi to handle it in person. As soon as this series of words fell, Obito froze for a moment, but regretted it. What's the situation? Uchiha Sasuke, the younger brother of Uchiha Itachi? This guy suddenly became Akatsuki's primary target? Obito's heart suddenly became confused. The name Sasuke. Of course it is impossible for him not to know. When he first participated in the genocide operation, Obito knew that Itachi had taken the initiative to leave a living after cooperating with Konoha's senior management. That is his brother, Uchiha Sasuke, and after that. Although Obito didn't pay attention to the younger brother all the time, he could get some information about him from time to time. For example, 3 years ago, he was taken away by Orochimaru before leaving Konoha village and his whereabouts are unknown. I didn't expect it this guy, it actually appeared again. As Akatsuki's primary goal, don't even think about it. There must be something tricky in this. Aware of this, Obito looked at Black Zetsu and said indifferently. Is there a place for him? I want to know where Uchiha Sasuke is now? Wrong. Hearing this, he was taken aback for a moment and subconsciously said. Why are you looking for him? Obito stood up, put away the map in his hand, and said indifferently without any fluctuations. Jiao Jiao. Have you heard a word? The enemy of the enemy is our friend. Now that Akatsuki has Uchiha Sasuke as his primary enemy, there may be a chance for cooperation between us. I would like to see what kind of existence is the younger brother of genius Uchiha Itachi. Obito said slowly. Sharingan's eyes flickered. In fact, that sentence was what he had heard from Qing Yu before. I felt that it made sense, so I wrote it down, and at the moment, Jukai understood what he meant. Then, after only pondering for a while, he said. His position is not known for the time being. But it should be found soon. Good. Obito nodded, thoughtfully. Then go. Maybe we can recruit new partners before Madara returns. Learn. The voice hasn't fallen. Ju's body merged into the earth again and disappeared. And Obito's eyes showed some strange light, and he muttered to himself. Uchiha Sasuke. Unsurprisingly, Mangekyo shouldn't be awakened yet, right? Chapter 249. The second pair of Rinnegan. This is really outrageous. Seeking subscription? Advertisement time flies. In a blink of an eye, it came 2 days later. And Ju, who went to find the location of Uchiha Sasuke, finally returned smoothly and came back to Obito's side. The rays of the rising sun passed from the top of the mountain. Shine Uchiha Obito's mask brightly, and at the moment, he is staring at Ju ahead, the eyes are exuding brilliance, and he asks in a deep and expectant manner. Is there any news from Sasuke? Heard that, suddenly there was a slight weird tone in Ju's tone, and he said with his feet. Yes, however, it looks a bit wrong. The words of absolute fall, Obito's face was stunned, and he subconsciously said. What's wrong? What's wrong? Obito was confused of course. You know, it's definitely an old intelligence officer. Not to mention how many winds and waves have been experienced, it is definitely a well-informed existence. And now, even he feels something is wrong. This is ridiculous. You should go and see with me yourself, Ju said helplessly while crawling out of the ground. Do not know why, he seemed unwilling to explain what was wrong. See this, Obito's expression moved slightly, after thinking for a moment, he nodded and said indifferently. Then go. No matter how wrong Uchiha Sasuke is, Obito is going to check it out, of course. At least, absolute attitude, it has already shown that the situation is not simple. As time goes by, it comes to the evening, on the border between the country of grass and the country of fire, above a valley. Now, above the valley, in a hidden location, Uzumaki suddenly appeared into space, and then, a black masked figure gradually emerged from it. It was Obito. And beside him, Ju also slowly emerged from the ground. Is it here? Obito whispered to himself, while subconsciously sweeping his gaze towards the surroundings. However, this 077 sweep, he immediately saw the strangeness below. But I saw on the plain, at this moment, there is a gray figure walking slowly. He was draped with a piece of gray feather weave, hemp rope tied around his waist, his black hair fluttered in the wind, but his expression was as cold as an iceberg. It was Uchiha Sasuke after leaving the Orochimaru base. Now, he was walking intently in a certain direction ahead, as if he had already set the goal. Yes, it's him. Absolutely lowered his voice and said in a dark tone. However, the moment Obito saw him, first, he was taken aback for a moment, and then his pupils suddenly shrank. The cold sweat suddenly came to life and froze stiffly. This moment, he who was originally confused, his thoughts were interrupted in an instant, and his brain was blank. How can this be? No wrong, what is going on? What the hell is going on? Why does Uchiha Sasuke have Rinnegan? Obito's breathing was completely stopped, and his expression was completely stopped. My heart is like a tens of thousands of grass and mud horses rushing past. After he just saw the lavender in Sasuke's eyes and the familiar breath. He recognized it instantly. That's right, this is absolutely Rinnegan. Just like the pair in Nagato's eyes, almost identical. This moment, Obito finally understood. Why did you say, something is wrong, before? This is so special, this is more than something wrong.
This is too ridiculous, right? According to Uchiha Madara.
Above this world of ninja, apart from Sage of Six Paths and his heirs, he should only be awakened by Rinnegan. Advertisement. Even Nagato's eyes were deliberately transplanted to him by Uchiha Madara before he died.
In other words, there should be only one pair in the entire ninja world.
Well, now, Uchiha Sasuke, the cub of Rinnegan, where did it come from? Obito stared straight ahead. He took a deep breath very slowly, trying to calm himself down.
However, when staring at those eyes, but it made his heart more solemn.
This situation, it was a bit too sudden, just when they tried their best to take back Nagato's Rinnegan for the Infinite Tsukuyomi project. Now, Uchiha Sasuke, who was killed halfway, has already got a pair in advance. Is it possible? Did he defeat Nagato and win this pair of eyes? This bold speculation suddenly emerged in Obito's heart, and then he looked to the side, preparing to verify. After all, this is the most reasonable reason he can imagine. However, just when he turned his head and looked over, before he spoke, Ju here suddenly spoke directly. He whispered helplessly. I know, you definitely want to ask me, did he take Rinnegan from Nagato, right? The answer is probably going to disappoint you. Because it's not. Ju always spoke in a dull tone and expressionlessly. At the time, after I noticed his eyes, I also thought about you. Then, I went back to Rain Shinobi village specially, only to find that neither Pen nor Nagato is unusual. His Rinnegan was not captured. This, it's what I call something wrong. Definitely stated slowly, however, as his words proceed. Obito's pupils still gradually shrunk to the smallest, shocking. This, it turned out that it wasn't the eye that was snatched? Doesn't that mean Uchiha Sasuke's pair of Rinnegan, was he awakened by himself? Aware of this, Obito's heart suddenly gawked. And then, suddenly, my heart began to be ecstatic. Wonderful. Turn around. Unexpectedly, Nagato's eyes didn't get back, but Uchiha Sasuke just awakened Rinnegan. Now, there is no need to worry about antagonizing Akatsuki's organization. Because theoretically as Rinnegan, they must have the same power. In other words, they only need to use Sasuke's eyes to complete the great project Tsuki no Mi. There is no need to go to regain Nagato's eyes and be hostile to Qing Yu's gang. Thus, don't be too easy. Obito stared down tightly, and bursts of brilliance began to appear in his pupils. All the time, Qing Yu of the golden pupil is his biggest heart disease. And after he, was kicked out of Akatsuki, this heart disease. It was almost overwhelming him to breathe, so that he even put aside his prejudice and took the initiative to join the mysterious Shuyi Palace. But I didn't expect, even if it is the invincible Fox Ghost. After the battle with Qing Yu, he still couldn't beat him. In the end, he was even forced to withdraw to shame. What makes Obito feel even more uncomfortable is that even in pure world reincarnation Uchiha Madara, whom he once trusted as a trump card, unexpectedly, he couldn't beat the Qing Yu, even. Also broken arm. All of these, it seems to imply in the dark. He Uchiha Obito, it is impossible to defeat Qing Yu. Even infinite Tsukuyomi has become a luxury. However, just today, everything has changed. He rekindled hope again. That is Uchiha Sasuke in front of you. With a complete pair of Rinnegan, he is the new light of hope for Project Tsuki no Mi. Just think of a way to get his eyes, or let him join Project Tsuki no Mi. Advertisement so, infinite Tsukuyomi will not be a problem. By the time, no matter what Qing Yu or what true eye of the evil king is, all will be conquered by the illusion that covers the whole world. And a peaceful world where there is no pain and sorrow will also come. Thinking till here, Obito's expression has completely changed. From the confusion and shock just now to the anticipation and contemplation now. This moment, he has made up his mind, no matter what. Must find a way to win Uchiha Sasuke right away wrong. Not wooing, instead, blacken him, just like back then, when he was black in Nagato. Sharingan's red eyes turned, in Obito's mind, a brand new plan has begun to take shape. And at this moment, on the plain below, do not know why. Uchiha Sasuke, who was marching, stopped suddenly. Seeing this picture, Obito suddenly moved in his heart and couldn't help but condensed his expression. What happened? Did you notice us, however? Just when he had this idea, but see below, above the far end of the plain, two red clouds and black robes suddenly appeared. The moment I saw clearly, Obito and Ju too were shocked at the same time. What a coincidence. Did Shao happen to find it? No doubt, the two people who appeared at the end. Of course they knew each other. Naturally this time the action team responsible for handling Uchiha Sasuke.
Uchiha Itachi, Hoshigaki Kisame. See here, suddenly suppressed the voice and whispered.
What about Obito? Do we need to take Uchiha Sasuke away? The voice fell. Obito naturally raised his eyebrows suddenly and began to think.
After a while, suddenly shook his head, thinking about it.
Being not. Let's watch the changes first. Sasuke, who owns Rinnegan, may not be the opponent of the two of them. If he could just dispose of the two Akatsuki members like this, it would have just helped us. If he really can't beat him later, it's never too late for me to go down. Obito said calmly. Once he accepted the facts, his thinking became extremely secretive.
And at the moment, above the plains, the evening sun dyed the sky crimson.
Even the surrounding mountains and water, boulders and the earth, have become a red. And under this red, three figures, all stopped. Stand at each other. Standing on the right, it is Uchiha Itachi and Kisame in Akatsuki's uniform. And the one standing on the left, Sasuke was alone, dressed in gray feathers. This moment, it seems that the world is quiet, the cold wind passed. Sasuke raised his eyes, looking at the familiar face in the distance. At this moment, his expression did not change, unexpectedly calm. However, at the moment on the opposite side, Itachi and Kisame, whose expressions were still calm. After seeing the lavender in Sasuke's raised eyes. Pause time, completely confused. This what's the eye of pain?
Chapter 250 Just let me break your fantasy, Itachi, seeking subscription.
Advertisement what's going on those eyes, shouldn't he be Sharingan? Both Uchiha Itachi and Kisame froze, immediately. After looking at each other, from the opponent's eyes, I saw the same shock. No doubt, this pair of Rinnegan is definitely the eyes of Akatsuki leader Pain. But what is going on with this weird feeling? Why does he have this pair of non-existent eyes? Kisame frowned slowly, staring down, and the ferret on the side. All kinds of speculations and meetings began to emerge in my heart, thinking about everything. Similarly, I am trying to understand everything in front of me. And at this time, the surrounding wind stopped howling. Sasuke on the other side spoke. His face was like an iceberg, and he looked at Uchiha Itachi and Kisame indifferently with those godlike Rinnegan, and said lightly. How Uchiha Itachi, in this decisive battle, are you still planning to find a helper? Humph, you should be clear, the battle between the two of us is not something trash can participate in. Sasuke glanced at Kisame indifferently, speaking mercilessly. In words, full of careless contempt and disregard. And hearing this, Kisame on this side was taken aback first. Immediately, he grinned open the corners of his mouth, showing a weird look, looked ahead, and chuckled lightly. Ha ha, Itachi-san, your little brother, the tone is really not small. Miscellaneous fish? This is the first time I heard someone call me that. While talking, he raised his hand and placed it on the big knife Samahata behind his back. Then, he glanced at Itachi and smiled. You shouldn't mind. I'll help you teach you this arrogant brother, right? The voice fell, Itachi's eyes remained unchanged, and his expression did not change in any way. I don't know if I didn't hear it or didn't care about Kisame's actions at all. See this, Kisame suddenly understood. The corners of his mouth grinned deeper, his eyes flashed slightly, and he chuckled softly. Understood. As soon as the voice fell, suddenly, the mutation happened. Base. I saw his foot on the ground, the body was shot out like an arrow. At the same time, he already held the big knife Samahata in his hand and slashed towards Uchiha Sasuke in front of him. The extreme speed that rushed out, set off the surrounding gusts, shocking and whistling. At this time, Sasuke in front of him is still indifferent. He didn't have any Jin, just raised a right hand, facing the front. Seeing this picture, Kisame's heart suddenly shuddered, and then he chuckled. Ah, do you want to use ninjutsu to push me back? Then you are miscalculating, Uchiha Sasuke, my Samahata. But what about chakra, the ninjutsu that can swallow everything? While thinking like this, Kisame didn't evade at all, and swiped a knife directly at Sasuke's right hand. At this moment, Sasuke in front of him spoke indifferently and moved forward with one hand. Please leave the miscellaneous fish. Shenluo Tianzheng. Boom. The moment the voice fell, before I saw his palm. An invisible huge repulsive force burst out in an instant. It turned into a majestic shockwave and a frantic storm, and in an instant, it completely submerged the Kisame in front of you. And the next moment, bang, Kisame hadn't reacted at all, so he was directly hit by this invisible force. Pass. The whole person's body flew upside down in an instant. Then, like a kite with a broken wire, it fell directly on the ground in the distance. Samahata fell to the side, but Kisame's pupils were filled with countless shocks and horrors in an instant. This what's wrong with this TM? Shenluo Tianzheng. Isn't this pen's technique? Advertisement original. As long as he has double eyes, he can also send it out? Kisame was naturally horrified to know, although he has never played against Pain, he has been on missions together. Therefore, of course he knows that Pain has two great skills. They're the universal pull, which represents gravity, and the Shenluo Tianzheng, which represents repulsion. Shenluo Tianzheng is a panacea skill. Whether it is physical things or non-physical ninjutsu, it can be lined up, which can be called the ultimate ability of offense and defense. But, he did not expect, the younger brother of Uchiha Itachi, unexpectedly held it in the same way. The truth exceeded his expectations, and at the moment. In the distant darkness, after seeing this picture, Obito and Ju-2 suddenly showed an expected expression. Especially Obito, under the mask, he seemed a little excited. Whispered to himself. Ha ha, it's a long-lost, Shenluo Tianzheng. This guy's Rinnegan really exists, thus you have to get him into the gang even more. While thinking like this, I see below, Kisame, who was blown away, wiped the bloodline at the corner of his mouth, got up a little embarrassed, and then grabbed Samahata in his hand. However, just when he was ready to act again, sighed. But suddenly Uchiha Itachi's indifferent voice came, saying. Stop it, Kisame. Hearing the sound, Kisame looked over at once. But at this moment, Itachi raised his eyes and looked at this side with a look like ice, with a blank expression on his face. This is a battle between our two brothers. So, no matter whether you live or die or win or lose, please don't interfere. Please. Uchiha Itachi looked at Kisame and spoke softly. His eyes flashed lightly, however, after the voice fell. Kisame was stunned for a while. I have known each other for so many years. I have been partnering for so many years, this was the first time he heard the words, please, from Itachi. After seeing this younger brother, compared with before, he has undergone a certain change. There was a moment of silence. Kisame put down the big knife Samahata in his hand, and then grinned slightly and said. Well, I see, Itachi-san. If you have asked, of course I won't refuse. While talking, he put Samahata on his back again. Then he jumped, came to the boulder next to him, and evacuated the battlefield. Subsequently, then he looked at the Itachi here and said loudly. Although the opponent is his own brother, but Itachi-san, you must be absolutely sure, don't just intentionally release water. Kisame suddenly slowed down, speaking with a smile on his face. It seems to imply something, and after listening. The ferret here slowly lowered his eyes. Now, the setting sun went down completely. The red afterglow gradually renewed and became faint. The evening breeze passed. Itachi raised his eyes again and looked forward to Sasuke. The eyes are facing each other. He finally spoke lightly. Tell me about Sasuke. Your pair of Rinnegan, how far away can you see the scenery? Heard that, Sasuke's eyes condensed and said in a low voice. You ask me how far I can see? The only thing I can see in my eyes is the way you were killed by me. Itachi. The voice fell. Itachi was silent for a while again. Immediately, his eyes lightly lifted and he said faintly. It seems that you seem to have confidence in your own strength. Then, next advertisement 0. Seeking flowers, stare. The voice hasn't fallen. In Itachi's eyes, the invisible chakra suddenly rushed out. Sharingan illusion is activated. A move, it is that he is most proud of, but also the illusion attack he is best at. Just need to look at each other, will be able to pull the opponent into the abyss of illusion. However, at the moment his illusion was activated. The opposite Sasuke suddenly curled up his mouth, revealing a weird smile. Seeing this, Itachi was taken aback for a moment. What happened? Illusion failed to activate? However, just as he thought, but seeing the front, Sasuke slowly raised his hand and placed it in front of his eyes, looking at the Itachi here, grinning slightly. Illusory. HMPH, you still like to do the same thing after so many years, Itachi. In that case, just let me break your fantasy. While talking, Sasuke raised his other hand and said loudly. My Rinnegan, it is completely beyond the ultimate existence of Sharingan and Mangekyo. In other words, today I am far above you, whether it is pupil technique or pupil power. A mere illusion can't do anything to me. 0. Your attack, I have seen everything through. The voice fell. Suddenly, Itachi and Kisame on the side were startled at the same time. Rinnegan can actually be directly immune to illusions? This, although they have worked with Pain, who also has Rinnegan hair, for many years, they have almost never considered such a thing. Aware of this, Kisame suddenly looked at Itachi on the opposite side, showing a complicated expression. He has already begun to feel it. This battle, maybe it will become extremely dangerous. Regardless of whether Uchiha Itachi releases the water or not, it is likely to fall into a bitter battle. After all, in his impression, Itachi has always been the best at illusion. In the game against the enemy, it is basically relying on illusion to quickly suppress the enemy. Unexpectedly, his own brother suddenly has eyes that can shield illusion. Have to say, it really feels like fate is playing tricks on people. And this side, after a moment of silence, Itachi's face finally returned to calm again. His thoughts moved too much in an instant. I also thought of many possibilities. But in the end, he still stared at Sasuke and asked indifferently. It's really a good eye to hear you say that, but... Where did you get it, Sasuke? This sudden word of Itachi. Sasuke on the other side was stunned for a moment. Where did you get it? This, however, not waiting for him to think carefully. But seeing Itachi lifted his eyes and said without any fluctuations. This kind of strange power can't be awakened out of thin air, right? So, who did you meet, or who gave you these eyes? Itachi said blankly. As soon as the voice fell, Sasuke's expression froze suddenly, and then his eyes sank. Itachi still unwilling to believe that this is my own ability. But, do I have to say it about that golden pupil Qing Yu? Chapter 251 Damn it, let him pretend to be here again, seeking subscription. Advertisement Sasuke thought slightly, in fact. Although he does not want to admit, however, this pair of Rinnegan is indeed obtained by others. That is Qing Yu and Orochimaru. However, even though Orochimaru has taught him for 3 years, he has never conducted this cell transplantation test on him, and has not even mentioned it. On the contrary, the moment this Qing Yu appeared, Orochimaru seemed to be obedient. It is also obvious from the dialogue between the two that cell transplantation plan, it was proposed by Qing Yu and executed by Orochimaru. Therefore, in love with reason, can draw conclusions. His pair of Rinnegan is the favor of that Qing Yu. It is precisely because of his presence that Senju Hashirama's cell transplantation can happen, and Rinnegan can also become a reality. And, it has also become Sasuke's biggest backing in defeating Uchiha Itachi. In this way, the problem arises: should I tell Uchiha Qing Yu? Sasuke's heart moved slightly. At this time, the ferret in front naturally noticed this picture. His eyes flashed slightly, then raised his eyes, his face indifferently said. Sasuke, it looks like you are hesitating. In other words, is that person an existence that you cannot easily mention? While talking, a faint light suddenly appeared in Itachi's eyes, and in a low voice, he said lightly. Is it Uchiha Obito? As soon as the phrase, 077, came out.
Opposite Sasuke, who was thinking about it, was taken aback for a moment.
And at the moment, in the darkness in the distance, Uchiha Obito, who was watching the game in secret, suddenly became stiff and dumbfounded. What kind of brain circuit is this NM?
Why would I give Rinnegan to him? I haven't met your brother at all yet, am I?
And, with Rinnegan, I would have been ready to turn on Infinite Tsukuyomi, okay? Still have time to deal with you here. But, although thinking so in my heart, Obito's thoughts suddenly became serious, original. He also thinks that Sasuke's Rinnegan should be awakened by himself and has nothing to do with others. But now it seems, there seems to be something wrong. After Itachi's words came out, the kid clearly fell into a moment of thinking. In other words, his Rinnegan must be inseparable from a mysterious existence. So who will it be? Who has the strange power to awaken Rinnegan? In an instant, thousands of thoughts popped into Obito's mind instantly. And at this moment, suddenly, a bold guess appeared in his mind. Suya Palace. The most mysterious existence in the ninja world. Possess countless various secret arts, extremely powerful organization members, and even Sharingan of almost the entire Uchiha clan. If it's them, well, even if you have more pairs of Rinnegans. It doesn't seem to be surprising, thought of here. Obito's eyes flashed suddenly, revealing a strange light. He suddenly thought, since he was seriously injured by Qing Yu, the fox ghost of the Void Knight Palace left the recovery props and disappeared completely. So far, I haven't contacted again, do not know, will they have something to do with Sasuke Rinnegan this time? While Obito was thinking, now, Uchiha Sasuke below frowned suddenly, his eyes a little stern. Call, who is Uchiha Obito you were talking about? At the time, the Uchiha clan were killed by you alone, Itachi? Advertisement, or, do you have other accomplices? Speaking of last, Sasuke's eyes suddenly became sharp. Like a blade, its sharp aura makes it difficult to look directly at it. Whenever you mention the dead people, it was when the revenge fireworks in his heart were at its peak. And at the moment, when Uchiha Itachi heard this, he was taken aback. He doesn't even know Obito? What happened after a pause? Itachi suddenly reacted, when Uchiha Obito was dead, in the Third Ninja War, Sasuke was not even born. There really is no anxiety. Plus, Obito back then, in the Uchiha clan, really can only be regarded as a crane tail with a weak sense of existence. After he died, if you don't go there, you can inquire about it. The average person really won't even know that there is a person like him. And after the night of genocide, and no one will tell him about the history of the war hero of the Uchiha clan. It makes sense if you don't know it, thought of here. Itachi immediately lowered his eyes slightly, and exhaled involuntarily in his heart. At least, as long as Sasuke doesn't mix with Obito of Blacken. There is still room for reversal, thought of here. He raised his eyes again and looked at Sasuke ahead. After staring silently for a moment, with an expression like an iceberg, he said indifferently. In that case, then there is no need to say more, Sas. Bring it on, let me see what progress you have made over the years. As soon as the voice fell, suddenly, I saw Uchiha Itachi's figure turned into an afterimage and disappeared in place. And the next moment, I don't know when, he actually appeared behind Sasuke. Is the instant technique, and the next moment, along with the light flash of Sharingan's light in his eyes, he suddenly took out a shinobi sword from nowhere, and immediately slashed it towards Sasuke's back without mercy. Puff. The sound of steel and iron swords and halberds interlaced. The silver blade that was swung stopped at a distance of 3 centimeters from Sasuke. And in Sasuke's hands, on the other hand, he held a blade and blocked Itachi's slash. But, the weird thing is, the knife in his hand for some reason, the tip of the knife has been completely cut off. And, judging from the cross-section of the fracture, it does not appear to be a trace of being cut, but it seems to be forcibly broken by some kind of huge force. See this picture. Itachi was taken aback for a moment and was slightly startled. Because at this moment, in addition to the abnormality of the blade, he also found that Sasuke's right hand also appeared to have been injured by some kind of attack before. Like a burn, but also like a lightning strike, however, it seems to have almost healed. Seeing this picture, Itachi's eyes flickered suddenly, and his heart was slightly startled. With his venomous eyes and extremely close-minded thoughts, it is naturally impossible to fail to see the clues. He narrowed his eyes slightly, stared at Sasuke, and said in a low voice. Before you came, did you fight with people? Is this pair of Rinnegan brought to you by that person, Sasuke?
He has experienced many battles. He spoke his own thoughts directly without shy away. However, after the voice fell, but Sasuke only greeted Sasuke's indifferent gaze like an iceberg, and said solemnly. You talk too much, 1007. Chidori, the voice hasn't fallen. He suddenly raised his other left hand, on the palm of my hand, between chakra xenon and chlorine, a burst of blue thunder and lightning appeared instantly. The principle of Chidori is to concentrate chakra on the palm of the hand and perform the thunder attribute nature transformation, so as to achieve the effect of killing the enemy with one blow, and its attack power is strong enough to penetrate the human body. And Chidoryu is a derivative ninjutsu created by Sasuke based on Chidori. At the moment it is released, it can cover the lightning-style chakra of nature transformation on the whole body and transform it into a wide range of Chidori, thereby paralyzing the enemy and causing damage with lightning. Advertisement in close combat, this unexpected lightning style can often achieve quite good results. Although the attack power is not great, but the control is extremely strong. Even Uchiha Itachi, don't dare to be careless, his pupils shrank, he did not hesitate to use the body flicker technique, and instantly jumped to the sky. Boom! The burst of thunder and thunderstorms spread to the surroundings. And at the moment, the Itachi in the air fell silent zero. He already understands, the speculation I just made must be close to the truth. Because of this, Sasuke is reluctant to say more, but launches an offensive. In this case, the only way to go is to fight. While thinking, Itachi raised his left hand in the air, and a quick one-handed seal was completed in an instant. Fire-style great fireball technique, boom. Accompanied by the fierce heat wave, huge flames spewed from Itachi's hands and mouth, and immediately condensed into a huge fireball, bombarding Sasuke below.
As the family ninjutsu of the Uchiha clan, Great Fireball can be described as a signature facade. When I was young, the two brothers often used this to practice against each other. However, this moment, facing the Great Fireball bombarded by Itachi. On the ground, Sasuke didn't make any knots at all, and even an indifferent expression appeared on his face. He just raised a right hand, and invisible, activated Rinnegan's power. Sealing technique sucks the mark. Stare, next moment. I saw the original aggressive Great Fireball technique. When I was about to touch Sasuke's body, it turned into a chakra flow instantly and poured directly into Sasuke's palm. In just 2 seconds, it was completely absorbed. There's not even a trace of spark left in the air. Seeing this picture, Uchiha Itachi above the skies suddenly shrank his pupils and froze directly. And many more. My technique has been absorbed? What's going on? Why does this form of absorbing chakra feel a bit like Kisami's big knife Samahata? But it seems to be more domineering than Samahata. Could this be the power that Rinnegan gave to Sasuke? Just when Itachi was shocked, Kisame in the distance also froze naturally. While holding the big knife Samahata in his hand, he was stunned on the spot. He who watched the game with peace of mind, where can I think of it, suddenly I can see this kind of outrageous picture. If it weren't for the two brothers who were concentrating on one-on-one, Kisame even suspects that he has been in illusion. This Sasuke, it's so special that you can use your body to show the power of imitating the big sword Samahata. Do not, wrong. This is not imitating at all, but transcending. You know, although Samahata also has the ability to absorb chakra to supplement itself, it is full of limitations. Because, those complex ninjutsu combined with chakra nature transformation 4.6, sensitive muscles cannot be absorbed. For example, when we were fighting with Uchiha Itachi, facing his great fireball, Samahata could not swallow it, but split it directly from the middle, and it also showed the characteristic of being afraid of being hot. But, Sasuke just now, but it was simply swallowed and absorbed directly. Totally unreasonable, the scene suddenly fell silent. The cold wind passed. There was a smile at the corner of Sasuke's mouth. He looked at the ferret in front of him, slowly retracted his hand, grinned, and sneered. What's the matter, Itachi? What's the matter with your surprised look? Confused? Or fear, if you really are only this level? I understand, no wonder Orochimaru said at the time. The gap between you and that man is like ant and crow. The voice fell, and the audience was dumbfounded. And many more, that man. Chapter 252, The Gap Between Dimensions, that man, seeking subscription. Advertisement, the gap with that man like ants and crows? Sasuke's words clearly reached the ears of everyone present. However, they froze involuntarily. What's the situation? Who is that man, in Orochimaru's mouth, to know? The strength of Uchiha Itachi, let's not talk about it. Even if you look at the entire ninja world and the 5 great ninja villages, it is definitely a top-notch master, and will never be weaker than any shadow in the 5 great ninja villages. And at the beginning, Orochimaru wanted to capture Sharingan, and was directly killed by the young Itachi. Logically speaking, Orochimaru should be very clear about Itachi's strength. But, Sasuke said, Orochimaru once said that the gap between Itachi and that man is like a crow and an ant. Crow and ant? This can no longer be regarded as a gap in strength, but a gap between dimensions, right? No matter what you think, the power of ants is absolutely impossible to compare with crows. In other words, Orochimaru thinks that Uchiha Itachi's strength cannot be compared with that man? Aware of this, Itachi and Obito, who were initially stunned, suddenly felt a chill in their hearts. Because at this moment, involuntarily, they suddenly had the same name in their minds at the same time. One. True Eye of the Evil King, Qing Yu, is that man referring to him again? With this inference, of course it is not groundless. First of all, Orochimaru disappeared from Akatsuki's sight a long time ago, and there is hardly any intersection. But not long ago, he was suddenly pulled out by Qing Yu, as the O2 tool for reporting Uchiha Obito, and brought back Rain Shinobi Village. From this point, it can be clearly seen, Orochimaru. There must be an intersection with Qing Yu. Even, they may have had a battle and reached a certain deal. And secondly, Uchiha Sasuke was forcibly taken from Konoha by Orochimaru 3 years ago. This is also a well-known fact by the people present. In other words, the intersection of Sasuke and Akatsuki, apart from Itachi, there is only Orochimaru. If you look at it all together, Qing Yu and Sasuke, 2 seemingly unrelated existences, in fact, under the tandem of Orochimaru, they are very likely to contact each other. And, there is the most important point, that is strength. That's right. Ties may be hard to guess, but strength is impossible to cheat. As we all know, Itachi's strength surpasses Kage level.
So, who has the strength, in his eyes, can form an absolute gap with Itachi?
No doubt, Qing Yu is very suspicious aware of this. Obito and Ju suddenly looked at each other and then, slightly solemnly said. Absolutely, while you are investigating Sasuke's location. Have you found any trace of his contact with Qing Yu? Heard that, suddenly thought about it for a while. Then he shook his head helplessly and answered honestly. It doesn't seem to be. Sasuke, apart from Orochimaru, seems to have never been in contact with other external entities. When the voice fell, Obito fell into thought for a moment. To be honest, for a moment, he really doubted Qing Yu very much. But, after calming down and thinking about it carefully, it felt a little unreasonable. After all, to know, Sasuke can be said to be Akatsuki's current enemy number 1. And Qing Yu is the core figure in Shao organization. He doesn't need to train himself an opponent at all. Thought of here, Obito shook his head, giving up the guess.
And at the moment, in the battlefield below, Kisame in the distance also flickered, not knowing what he was thinking.
The expression looked a little weird, and it seemed a little dignified. And this side, Uchiha Itachi's pupils also condensed slightly. Advertisement, of course, he was not because of Sasuke's ridicule, but also because of thinking about the man, Orochimaru said. After a moment of contemplation, Itachi looked at Sasuke again, and said indifferently. It looks like, in the past few years, you do have a lot of special fortunes, Sassy. But you seem to underestimate me. The moment the voice fell, Itachi's eyes suddenly emitted a weird red light, and the next moment, I saw the go jade pattern in his eyes instantly began to change. Finally, it turned into a shuriken appearance. This is Uchiha Itachi Mangekyo Sharingan. Seeing this picture, Sasuke's heart moved slightly, and then his face returned to indifference, and he said lightly. Shout. Want to use your Mangekyo Sharingan to fight my Rinnegan? I really look forward to it. To what extent can the so-called Tsukuyomi and Amaterasu be achieved? Can you stop me from killing you? Uchiha Sasuke said blankly, his voice fell, and he suddenly jumped. Base. With the broken sword grass Nana in his hand, he directly rushed towards Uchiha Itachi here, without a trace of dodge or escape. Instead, he chose the most risky frontal attack. However, after seeing this picture, Uchiha Itachi, who was about to take the shot, couldn't help but froze again. And many more, Tsukuyomi and Amaterasu? He knows the name of my Mangekyo ability? This, Uchiha Itachi was puzzled to know, since he first awakened Amaterasu in Water Country, he has never used it in front of Sasuke. Even Orochimaru doesn't even know the power of Amaterasu. But what's going on now? Why does he know this? Could it be that? Did that man tell it again? Even though Itachi felt a sense of something wrong. However, it's too late to think carefully at this moment. Sasuke, who holds the broken sword in his hand, has already rushed to the front, raising his hand and slashing it directly. The speed is as fast as lightning. And the broken sword in his hand was immediately wrapped around the blue-purple lightning-style chakra that was constantly bursting and rushing at this moment. It is his thousand bird blade, before, in the face of Qing Yu, although the Kusana sword was broken. However, it will not affect the normal release of Chidori blade. Even Chidori's lightning-style chakra can just make up for the shortcomings of the blade and extend the attack range. It's too late to say, then it's fast. The fierce thunder and lightning sword slashed in an instant. See this, Itachi's eyes flashed. Stare, bird clone technique, activate. The moment the blade slashed Itachi's body, it passed through in an instant. At the same time, Itachi's body immediately turned into a black crow flying all over the sky and instantly dispersed. Next moment, his body appeared directly behind Sasuke at a very high speed. Immediately without hesitation, kicked out, in physical combat, he is also a first-class master, so naturally he won't have the slightest hesitation. Sasuke also reacted quickly raised his backhand, and directly blocked Itachi's kick with his arm. Puff. The moment the impact sound came out, the airwave quickly spread to the surroundings. And the blood-red pupils of the two condensed at the same time, without any hesitation, they immediately set off again at the same time, and the battle began. It seems to maintain a special tacit understanding. Two brothers who killed each other, at this moment. He didn't even choose to use pupil technique, but there was a battle between physical techniques. And in these dazzling moves, Sasuke, who once won the weak. At this moment, it seems not to be let down. What's more surprising is that his body seems to be full of some invisible strange force, and he can sometimes force Uchiha Itachi back. Seeing this fierce battle scene, people who eat melons like Kisame and Obito are naturally very attentive. Advertisement, however, what they didn't notice was. Now, somewhere above the sky, a figure also appeared.
He was looking down slightly, staring at everything below with a condescending posture.
It is Qing Yu. Now, he still wore Akatsuki's uniform and kept the same outfit. Obviously, just came from Rain Shinobi village, however. At this moment, his expression showed a faint smile. With his Ryatsu's perception, of course he can clearly see through everything below. Therefore, naturally, he can also notice Obito and Ju too, who are observing secretly.
Wonderful. Come uninvited. The corner of Qing Yu's mouth raised a smile.
He originally wanted to lead Obito here through the identity of a fox ghost, so that he and Sasuke would meet and trigger the story behind. But did not expect, when he came here, the kid Obito had been watching the game for a long time. Obviously came prepared if you look at it this way. It seems that there is no need to worry at all, as long as Sasuke defeats Itachi, or if Itachi takes the initiative to release water for Sasuke to win. So, Obito will inevitably jump out to win over Sasuke.
This is the inevitable result. So, next, just watch the show.
Qing Yu sat floating above the sky, staring at everything below. And at the moment, the situation on the battlefield. It has basically entered a fever pitch. On the bodies of the two brothers, a lot of scars began to appear, and even a slight bloodline appeared on the corners of their mouths. Obviously, in this hand-to-hand battle, they are almost 50-50. I don't know it's Sasuke's rapid progress, or Itachi was deliberately releasing water. Woolen cloth. Attack collided, the spreading impact extended towards the surroundings, and the dust vibrated. The two opened the distance again, at this time. Sasuke on the opposite side raised his hand and faintly wiped the bloodline at the corner of his mouth. That's the end of the joke, Itachi. Use your Mangekyo Sharingan, I will also use Rinnegan to fight. Next, I want to defeat you thoroughly, then, kill you. Talking, Sasuke raised the broken blade Kusanagi in his hand, his eyes sharp. And at the moment, the face of the ferret on the opposite side remained unchanged, and his eyes slowly dropped. A trace of complicated melancholy came out of my heart. Of course he is very pleased to see the tremendous growth of Sasuke's strength. In this way, he can survive the troubled times of this world of ninja without any risk of life. However, these powers of him are too mysterious. So that, Itachi could not rest assured at all. What if Sasuke is brainwashed again after he dies and goes on the wrong path to resist the ninja world? Wouldn't the war happen again from his hands? Thought of here? Itachi's heart became more complicated, but he also understands. At this moment, the arrow is on the line and I have to send it. He is destined to have a complete victory and defeat with Sasuke to end everything. In that case, then, Itachi exhaled slowly. After that, he raised his eyes suddenly and looked forward to Sasuke, the pupil in his right eye condensed. Stare, Amaterasu, in an instant. Dark red blood flowed from the eye sockets and at the same moment, I saw the focus of his eyes. Countless black flames ignited above Sasuke's body. Chapter 253 That's it, my stupid Odudu, subscription required. Advertisement Amaterasu, known as the strongest physical attack. Mangekyo Sharingan's eyes focused, and a black flame will appear. With extremely high heat and destructive power, it can burn all the targets within sight. Even the flame is the same, and more terrifying is. Amaterasu, before burning the target to ashes, is a flame that will never go out. Looking at the flames ahead, a strange expression appeared on Hoshigaki Kisami's face on the side. Think at the beginning, when he and Itachi went to perform a certain mission, they had seen this kind of pupil technique, and at that time, their enemies, without exception, all died under this continuous black fire. It's really oozing. Did not expect did Itachi use this trick on his own brother? It seems that there is no plan to release the water. Kisame thought so in his heart, and at the moment. Obito, who was in the dark, saw this picture, and his face suddenly sank. Spray. Amaterasu? Of course it is impossible for him not to know. In fact, in these years, besides monitoring Qing Yu, of course he has been monitoring Uchiha Itachi. It can almost be said, in the entire Shao organization, apart from Qing Yu, Itachi is the most difficult enemy. Just like this Amaterasu, as long as you keep your eyes on, you can launch a black flame attack. Obito's Kamui, even if he can transfer himself to a different space, it is useless. Because, as long as the target is not dead, the flame will never go out. This is why Obito is afraid of Itachi, because even if he owns Kamui, he is not sure that he will be fast enough to not be caught by Itachi. Did not expect, this time, Itachi actually came up and used Amaterasu. While Obito was meditating, now, below, the situation happened. I saw Sasuke wrapped in black flames. Not only did he not show any painful expressions or voices at this moment. On the contrary, he grinned open his mouth, and showed a slight smile at Itachi. Is this the so-called eternal fire? Ha ha, the moment the voice fell. Stare. The sudden change. I saw that above Sasuke's body, the black flames that were still burning and jumping started to disappear at this moment. When the last flame was extinguished, Amaterasu ceased to exist. And Sasuke in front, there are even no traces of burns on the body, only a few traces of scorched air remaining on the clothes. Seeing this weird picture, this moment. Whether it was Kisame or Itachi, their pupils shrank and they were startled. What happened? Amaterasu, which never goes out, went out. And, is he still unharmed? Do not know, wait, it is not extinguished but absorbed. Itachi and Kisame shrank at the same time, they suddenly remembered. Sasuke just now is the great fireball technique that absorbed Itachi in his palm. Could it be that, the flame of Amaterasu is also absorbed in this way? This is too ridiculous when the two were shocked. Obito in the distance grinned slowly, chuckling and muttering to himself. Humph, sass for this guy, is it good to have control over Rinnegan? Not only the master has the power of heaven, but can even the power of Hungry Kido be so familiar with it? That's right. Of course he knew all of Rinnegan's abilities. Therefore, for Sasuke's operation, there was no shock, on the contrary, he was very pleased. And below, in the silence, Sasuke slowly opened his arms, his eyes shone, and he grinned. I said it, Rinnegan is the existence beyond Mangekyo. He pretended to be again, Itachi thought quickly in his heart, and his face became serious. In the case of illusion failure, Tsukuyomi is naturally useless, and now, the strongest physical attack Amaterasu has been absorbed. Advertisement Doesn't this mean that the double Mangekyo's abilities are now null and void? Just as Itachi's eyes flickered and he was thinking about tactics at a high speed. This side, Sasuke's face returned to indifferent and said coldly. It's my turn, the thousand birds sharp spear. The moment the voice fell, boom, on Sasuke's palm, a burst of thunderlight came out. Immediately after that, all the thunder and lightning quickly condensed into a beam of light, and then, like a long spear, quickly rushed towards the Itachi. See this, naturally, Itachi dodged quickly, trying to avoid it. However, as soon as he dodges the Chidori sharp spear, he heard a faint 4 words from Sasuke's mouth. Universal pull. Stare. The voice hasn't fallen. Itachi suddenly changed his face, because at this moment, he instantly felt on his body, and an invisible suction suddenly appeared, pulling himself back forcibly. And the moment he realized this, he had already arrived in front of Sasuke. Too late to think about it, Itachi instantly condensed his eyes, and quickly raised the katana in his hand, trying to slash it towards Sasuke. However, as soon as his katana was raised, oncoming, it turned out to be a huge and majestic tree trunk, rushing towards me. Itachi's pupils shrank dramatically, before he had time to react. Boom! The sturdy and majestic trees slammed into Itachi's body in an instant, blasting him out. Puff! A bright red blood spurted out of Itachi's mouth. His face turned pale at this moment. The body is also like a kite with a broken wire, it flew out directly. At this time, seeing this picture, Kisame and Obito all even shocked and froze. This sudden moment completely exceeded their expectations. When Sasuke used universal pull, they were already very surprised. What I didn't expect is, after getting closer to Itachi, he actually used wood style. The two were shocked on the spot. No doubt, this kind of luxuriant branches that continue to grow is definitely wood style. There can be no mistakes. Even if Kisame hasn't seen it before, Obito really masters the power of wood style. From his perspective, this is definitely the authentic wood style. Even more authentic than his own, it even feels like Uchiha Madara. Obito took a breath for a while. This guy. Not only one Rinnegan, how special is it that I transplanted first Hokage Senju Hashirama's cells? And many more know, it should be because of Senju Hashirama's cells that you can control Rinnegan, right? This guy, there are too many secrets, Obito's brain thought quickly, trying to find an answer. However, but I can't think of why, and at the moment. In the battlefield below, Itachi's body was blasted into the ruins and rocks in front of him. He lay on the ground, a trace of blood spilled from the corner of his mouth, panting heavily. In the pupils, but it was full of extremely complicated thoughts. Of course he can see it too, Sasuke's unexpected move just now is the wood style of first Hokage. There can be no mistakes, even much stronger than the wood style ninja in Konoha village. Aware of this, Itachi smiled bitterly in his heart. He couldn't think of it, in these short 3 years, Sasuke will have such a big opportunity. Mu Tong Dun from first Hokage and Rinnegan, known as the Eye of the Immortal. This configuration of strength, no matter what you think, it's invincible. Thus, advertisement, even if it is to use his own stunt Susanoo, I am afraid that it may not necessarily cause him what kind of suppressing power. Even the ending cannot be changed. Yes, Itachi knew in his heart. My body can't hold on for long. He was terminally ill, and his body was overdrawn to the point of exhaustion due to excessive use of Mangekyo Sharingan. It is possible to die at any time. Even, it is very possible to die in this battle. But if you just die in vain, will you not be able to do anything soon? The flame of revenge in Sasuke's heart may be quelled. But, in case he yelled at himself, he mixed up with the black hands behind the scenes, and started the war in the ninja world again. Thinking of this, there was a trace of blood pouring out of Ferret's mouth again. Cough 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 cough. Unstoppable cough, accompanied by blood flow out. Physically and mentally exhausted, it can even be said that his terminal illness cannot be separated from his perennial heart disease. And at the moment, after seeing this picture, in the distance, Sasuke's expression moved slightly and frowned. What happened? My wood-style attack just now isn't so powerful, right? Itachi actually played so casually? While thinking, Sasuke stepped up and walked slowly in front of Itachi. Looking down at him condescendingly, subsequently, faintly raised the broken blade in his hand, placed it on Uchiha Itachi's chest, and said indifferently, "Are you the end of it, Itachi?" The voice fell. Itachi slowly raised his eyes, looked at Sasuke, and said nothing. To be honest, now there is still room to use Susanoo to fight. But it is also very possible that when Susanoo ends, all vitality will be exhausted. But in this case, maybe we will never know who is behind Sasuke, nor will we know where Sasuke will go in the future. After a long silence, Itachi slowly raised his hand, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and then coughed softly. Cough cough. Sassy, after you kill me, your aim of revenge will be achieved. So, after that, where would you choose to go? Konoha, Itachi said softly, his tone as if he was looking back. And seeing this, Sasuke was suddenly taken aback. Unexpectedly, Itachi would suddenly show such a posture, Jiao Jiao. After thinking for a moment, he said indifferently, expressionlessly. After that, I haven't thought about it, just kill you and everything is over. Sasuke said lightly. This is indeed what he said in his heart. However, after hearing this, Itachi's eyes suddenly dimmed slightly. Do not you know, wait, sure enough, my stupid Odudu has long been blinded by revenge. Even if I mentioned Konoha, he didn't have the slightest psychological fluctuation anymore. Perhaps, after my death, will he move further away from the village? While thinking like this, in Itachi's heart, deep helplessness and gloom flowed from one side. As an older brother, in fact, it is not only hope that Sasuke can live well. I also hope that Sasuke can take his place and protect his beloved village, Konoha. But now it seems, this wish seems impossible by now. Maybe there is only one way to change all of this. Itachi's eyes flickered slightly. That was the husband many years ago. His best friend, the relic entrusted by Uchiha Shisui. Its name is, Distinguished Heavenly Gods, Chapter 254 The Final Illusion Distinguished Heavenly Gods, the Hot Sasuke, seeking subscription. Advertisement use, still don't use it, this is a problem. In silence, in Uchiha Itachi's heart, complicated thoughts were entangled. As far as he knows, the Mangekyo, Distinguished Heavenly Gods, left by Shisui is known as the strongest illusion. It is the absolute power that can force the modification of the thinking and will of others. And once in Distinguished Heavenly Gods, the target's will be engraved with a special entry by the caster. And, after that, they will remain unswervingly. For example, if he imposes the entry, Guard Konoha, on Sasuke, then, once Distinguished Heavenly Gods is successfully released, Sasuke's will be completely revised, for the rest of my life. He will exist to protect Konoha. This is in the hands of Uchiha Itachi, the biggest support now. So much so that he has never thought of using it once for so many years. Even then, when facing the extremely powerful Qing Yu, he didn't even think about using Distinguished Heavenly Gods to modify their spirits in the past. Because once this technique is used, it has a cooling period of more than 10 years. So, Itachi has been pouring the use period, but now. But there is no other way. If you don't use it anymore, I'm afraid it won't be long before you will die completely. Either you die from a terminal illness of exhaustion, or you die under the sword of Uchiha Sasuke. To be honest, he is not afraid of death, but he was afraid that he could not change anything. It did not change the war in Ninja, nor Sasuke's fate, nor did Konoha's situation. So, now is the time before he died, he used this last pupil technique. But whether to use it on Sasuke, but it is also a problem. If it were in the past, he will probably use Distinguished Heavenly Gods to change Sasuke's will and protect Konoha. But now, the situation has changed. Behind Sasuke, a mysterious man behind the scenes appeared. Moreover, it seems that it is the man who gave Sasuke Wood Style and Rinnegan the power 077. From Orochimaru's words, the man's own strength is also completely at the top level of the ninja world. If Itachi's Distinguished Heavenly Gods were used to modify Sasuke's will. So, if he and the man become hostile by the time. With his current power, can you beat that man? Itachi could not be sure. And, in addition to the black hand behind the scenes, the Akatsuki organization is also a major concern. Then, it was precisely because it was aware of Akatsuki's horror that he was willing to enter it as a spy to spy on the information in it. Facts have also proved that his speculation is correct. Dawn, it is indeed the #1 terrorist organization in the ninja world. Their purpose, it is to collect the 9 big-tailed beasts of the whole ninja world and cast them into tailed beast weapons to deter the entire ninja world. As you can imagine, in the progress of this plan, due to the conflict of deterrence, a fierce battle between the entire ninja world will inevitably be set off. And, in the dawn, there are also powerful evil forces. Needless to say, Kisame Deidara Kakuzu Hidan and others are certainly not Sasuke's opponents in the future. Therefore, Itachi would not worry too much about them. The remaining Pain and Konan, in front of Sasuke, who owns both Wood Style and Rinnegan, may not necessarily be opponents. Problem, it's the last person. That is the real core existence in Akatsuki organization today. Golden Pupil, Qing Yu. A man with a supreme pupil technique named Evil King True Eye. This is the reason Akatsuki's organization is truly terrible. Similarly, it is also very likely to be the greatest enemy in the future ninja world. Attacking Konoha is also inevitable, and once Sasuke is given the will to guard Konoha, he will definitely be the enemy of Shao and Qing Yu at a certain node in the future. Thus, a big battle may still be inevitable. Complicated thoughts lingered in Itachi's mind, and it was difficult to sort out. But at this moment, advertisement Sasuke above suddenly spoke, interrupting his ACEG thoughts. I saw the broken knife in Sasuke's hand slowly move to the position of Itachi's heart, and then he said coldly without expression. What are you thinking about, 1007, or? Have you given up struggling? Even you, when faced with an invincible force, would you still choose to give up? Hey, it seems that the two of us are not alike. I won't give up killing you. As soon as Sasuke's voice fell, the sword in his hand was slightly lifted, his face gradually cold, and he was ready to go. At this time, after hearing this, Itachi suddenly felt a shock in his heart, and his pupils shrank slightly. He who was still tangled, at this moment, it was like a divine enlightenment, and the heart became clear. Don't give up, this. Yes, if Sasuke came to protect Konoha, he would probably never give up. Maybe, in the future, there will be a chance to turn defeat into victory. Thought of here, Itachi smiled bitterly in his heart. So, maybe now is the time, it's time to use the ultimate illusion Distinguished Heavenly Gods on him. Thought of here, Itachi was invisible, and immediately began to condense chakra quickly, looking at Sasuke. This moment, his eyes were no longer confused, there is no unnecessary hesitation. What he thought of, only the will to guard Konoha, is imposed on Sasuke. Because there is only this, only his beloved brother and beloved village can hope to be rescued. At the same time, I saw the patterns in his pupils, and they began to change rapidly. At the same time, Qing Yu above the sky, he was paying attention to the situation below indifferently. But, suddenly his face changed slightly, because at this moment, in the range of his Ryatsu's perception, he suddenly discovered an abnormality. Uchiha Itachi, who was still dying. At this moment, suddenly, a large amount of chakra began to gather. Although it is very hidden, it is difficult to detect. But Qing Yu's perception can penetrate the body perfectly, and naturally he has noticed the quiet changes in these energies. They are all converging towards Itachi's eyes, obviously. He is condensing chakra to release pupil technique. Aware of this, Qing Yu's pupils suddenly condensed. Obviously the pupil technique that Itachi wants to release is not Amaterasu or Tsukuyomi. After all, these techniques pose no threat to Sasuke who owns Rinnegan. So, his greatest possibility, there are the remaining 3 techniques. Susanoo, Izanami, and Distinguished Heavenly Gods. Susanoo will not say for the time being. According to Itachi's physical condition, it may be released, and it may not last long. And Izanami, in terms of his love for his younger brother, does not seem to use such torture techniques to deal with Sasuke. What's more, Sasuke's self-recognition may not necessarily achieve good results. Therefore, most likely, this is the third situation. Distinguished Heavenly Gods. The supreme illusion that can forcefully modify the will of others. Qing Yu narrowed his eyes slightly, to be honest. He had thought before that Itachi might find a way to use Distinguished Heavenly Gods on Sasuke before he died. But did not expect he actually used it so quickly. I didn't even use Susanoo to give it a try, it seems. His physical condition, it seems to be worse than expected. Having said that, naturally, Qing Yu can't let it go. Uchiha Sasuke, but one of the most critical pieces in this deterrence check and balance plan. From the beginning, he was set as the ultimate villain. So now you must take action to interrupt the Distinguished Heavenly Gods of Itachi. Once Sasuke is given the will to guard Konoha, all previous preparations will be completely void. Advertisement end. Anyway, Konoha is not a good bird, there is really no need to guard it. Thought of here, Qing Yu suddenly felt slightly condensed. Then, looking at Uchiha Itachi below, he did not hesitate to activate the Ryotsu voice transmission. The voice message to be conveyed is directly conveyed to the soul of the other party in the way of Ryotsu, and the purpose of secret sound transmission can be achieved. And at the same time below, Itachi, who was rapidly gathering Distinguished Heavenly Gods, suddenly stunned. Because at this moment, in his mind, a very familiar voice suddenly sounded. Yo, Mustela, do you want to use Distinguished Heavenly Gods on your brother? Forcibly control him to protect Konoha for you? The voice fell. Itachi's chakra cohesion was interrupted involuntarily in an instant. For a moment, the pupils suddenly shrunk to the smallest extent, and his face suddenly froze. Seeing this picture, even Sasuke, who was holding the knife above, was taken aback. What's the situation however, what he didn't know was. At this moment, Uchiha Itachi's heart is filled with countless horrors and shocks. His thoughts were completely interrupted, and his brain was almost blank. And many more, why this is Qing Yu's voice? He is using some kind of sound transmission technique on me? But why does he know that I want to use Distinguished Heavenly Gods? Also know that I want to guard Konoha on Sasuke? This Itachi naturally took time to live. This sudden change made him completely unresponsive. And until then, he suddenly, from above the sky, under the dazzling sun, a black spot was found. Precisely, it was not a point, but a black figure. Only, because the distance is too far, coupled with the shining of the sun, it seems a little insignificant. But at this moment, in Itachi's eyes, there was no slight sense of insignificance. Because he can already confirm, that figure, it's definitely Qing Yu. And just when he was stunned, in his mind, Qing Yu's leisurely chuckle came again. Ah, it seems you have discovered me too, so.
I don't know if you have noticed that in the dark, there are other eyes, which are all here. Like Uchiha Obito. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark. Quote. As soon as Qing Yu's voice fell.
Itachi's eyes shook again, and he swept around suddenly.
However, even if I looked around with Sharingan's power.
But there was no hidden figure at all. After all, Obito and Juke are both famous for Holland, and of course they have a special set of methods. After searching for no results, Itachi's face couldn't help but make it hard to look.
He couldn't think of it anyway. This battle, there are so many people watching.
Shouts Qing Yu, Obito who betrayed Akatsuki, two very different oppositions.
Now, are you all watching Sasuke? Thought of here.
Itachi suddenly gave a wry smile in his heart. Ah. That's true, Sasuke is no longer what he used to be. He possesses Rinnegan plus wood style, and he has a first-class combat power wherever he is. Indeed, it will become a hot target. Chapter 255 Distinguished Heavenly Gods is launch, the sacred arrow that descends from the sky, seeking subscription. Advertisement whether you want or don't want to. Now Sasuke has been involved in this Uzumaki of Ninja World. Since Akatsuki and Obito, if you have a plan for him. So, perhaps, he is alone, the final destination. Still Konoha. Probably only Konoha will generously accept him as a homeless person. Thought of here, Itachi sighed slightly in his heart and calmed down again. He knows, I don't have time to hesitate. The severe pain in the body also began to accompany Chakra's exhaustion and it deepened. And this time, he no longer looked around, and no longer looked up at Qing Yu above the sky, but looked at Sasuke in front of him. The eyes are facing each other. Time seemed to stand still at this moment. On Itachi's face, a helpless smile suddenly appeared, and with an extremely weak voice, he slowly said. Sorry Sasuke. This is probably the last time. The moment the voice fell. Stare. I saw Itachi's eyes flashed, moment. Chakra surged, and countless black crows swept across the sky, covering Sasuke's entire body completely. Among them is the special crow of Mangekyo Sharingan who lives with Uchiha Shisui. This moment, the faith in Itachi's heart is firm. He has decided to use the distinguished heavenly gods in the eyes of the crow to give Sasuke the will to live and guard Konoha. Thus, with the power of Sasuke Rinnegan plus Wood Style, even if Plus is double intercepted by Uchiha Obito and Shoji Qing Yu, there is a great possibility of escape. Plus, Akatsuki and Obito were mortal enemies. Sasuke is not necessarily prioritized as the first goal. Sasuke must be able to return to Konoha with a new identity and become the backbone of Konoha. Itachi's heart was so firm, and at this time, Sasuke on this side. After listening to Itachi's words, he was startled. Before I waited for the reaction, I immediately saw countless crows surging out in front of my eyes. Of course he knew that the crow was the summoning beast of Itachi, so he frowned and raised his hand, trying to bounce all the crows away through the Shenluo Tianzheng. But at this moment, he suddenly found out, among these crows, there is actually a crow with special eyes that are different from other crows. That is a special Mangekyo Sharingan that is completely different from Itachi's Mangekyo style. Aware of this, Sasuke's face suddenly changed, and he sensed something bad in his heart. With the deep scheming of Itachi, the tricks released under this desperate situation must have some unexpected effect. And, after learning that illusion and physical attacks are useless to Rinnegan, Itachi still used this trick. This indicates that he is very sure of this trick in his heart, not bad. It must be resolved immediately. Sasuke gritted his teeth. Raising his hand, he tried to quickly gather Lei-Shi Chakra, Mangekyo Sharingan who wanted to use Chidori to destroy this crow in an instant. However, when the lightning-style chakra in his hand emerged, there was a bitter, helpless smile in the eyes of the ferret below. My stupid brother, sorry, only this time I won't let you resist. This is me, the last fantasy, call out, boom. Just when Itachi's thoughts were halfway through, all of a sudden, a change occurred. I saw above the sky, a dazzling blue-white ray arrow, like lightning, tears through the space and will arrive in no time. When no one has time to react, in an instant, he put the crow and the eyes together. Destroyed instantly. Boom. The exploding blue airwave is like an invisible tsunami. Just the aftermath of diffusion, in an instant, advertisement. Boom. Sasuke and Itachi at the same time, puff. Puff. The two of them almost flew out in different directions in the same posture, and at the same time sprayed a mouthful of blood. At the same time, it is the same shocking color in the eyes. What happened? When did this arrow of light appear? This speed finish, I can't see it all. The two fell to the ground fiercely, and almost at the same time, they looked up to the sky. Naturally, Sasuke didn't know who was attacking from above, so when he looked at it, he looked dazed and shocked. And Itachi, even though he knew Qing Yu was above him, he was equally daunted and shocked. He didn't expect it anyway. Qing Yu will suddenly shoot. And, still such an unprecedented mysterious arrow of light. Fast, completely incomprehensible. The moment Itachi released the crow, although it seems very long. But, in fact, it is less than half a second at all. And just before Itachi was about to launch Distinguished Heavenly Gods, Qing Yu's arrow came. Hardly any warning, forcibly destroyed the Distinguished Heavenly God's eye of the crow. This moment, Itachi was completely confused. He suddenly started to understand why did Qing Yu deliberately pass the voice to him. Original, already hinting? And at the moment, on the other side, Kisame watching the battle and Taishitu and others watching the battle secretly, of course, they are all forced. Originally, they were still paying attention to the life and death confrontation between the brothers. What happened to the arrow that suddenly fell from the sky? There is this kind of plot unfolding? They are all dumbfounded. Trying to look up above the sky, however, no matter how they wait and see. Above the sky, there was only a shining sun, there's nothing more. Even the Itachi, who had just seen Qing Yu's figure, suddenly discovered at this moment. I don't know when, the figure has disappeared however at this moment. What they don't know is, Qing Yu still stood there without any changes. It's just that, on his whole body, there is a special Kido named, Bakudo number 26 bent light. This kind of Kido can use Ryatsu to distort the light around the operator, thereby achieving the purpose of invisibility. And at the moment, Qing Yu under the bent light, holding a silver Lingza longbow in his hand, showed a helpless smile on his face. It seems to be a little too hard. Not only annihilated the Mangekyo of the crow, but also blasted the brothers away. In fact, Qing Yu did not intend to intervene, so. When Itachi planned to use Distinguished Heavenly Gods for the first time, Qing Yu just interrupted. But did not expect, these two brothers are too inked. After some entanglement, Sasuke did not kill Itachi, but instead gave Itachi a chance to release Distinguished Heavenly Gods again. This time, naturally, it is impossible for Qing Yu to sit idly by. With the lightning-style casting speed of Urzuzi, it is a dream to be faster than the Distinguished Heavenly Gods of Mangekyo Sharingan. Therefore, without any choice, Qing Yu can only use his power as a Quincy. Divine Destruction. In a short moment, the arrow formed by the condensed spirit, draws a bow, and shoots the crow that is lodged with Uchiha Shisui Mangekyo in an instant. This is the physical cracking of Distinguished Heavenly Gods. Thus, the next battle, there is not much suspense. Qing Yu's heart moved slightly, and the silver longbow in his hand immediately turned into a burst of spirits and disappeared into the air. At the same time, Qing Yu looked at the reluctant Sasuke below, chuckled and said, "Advertisement, you're welcome." Continue to fulfill our cooperation. Sasuke below heard the words, and his pupils suddenly shook. 0. For flowers. Subsequently, reacted, he gritted his teeth and showed some unhappy expressions. Shout. Of course he heard Qing Yu's voice, just because I heard it. He felt a little unwilling, did not expect at this critical moment. It turned out to be the enemy I used to save myself. And it looks like, that guy seems to have been paying attention to the battle here, so he suddenly made a move at the critical juncture just now. Even though Sasuke didn't know what that Mangekyo crow did. But from the point that Qing Yu shot, it must not be simple. Sasuke slowly raised his hand and wiped the bloodline at the corner of his mouth. Then stood up, once again, he walked slowly towards the Itachi ahead. Regardless of the situation, his purpose of revenge has never changed. Even if calculated by a guy like Qing Yu, he must also be here to kill the enemy of blood, Uchiha Itachi. This has never changed. While thinking, Sasuke had walked up to Itachi. And his face had already regained his iceberg-like indifference. He slowly raised the broken Kusunaru sword, leaned against Uchiha Itachi's neck, and said indifferently. What was the trick just now, Itachi? Do you still have an extra third Mangekyo Sharingan? Is that why you destroyed our clan? Sasuke's tone was extremely cold. The killing intent was equally awe-inspiring. However, after the voice fell, Uchiha Itachi above the ground has no intention of defending it. His pupils were slightly dilated, staring at everything invisible above the sky, as if he was looking at something, and as if he hadn't seen anything. Until a moment later, his eyes turned slowly to Sasuke again. And this time, there was a bleak smile of relief on his face. He looked at Sasuke, spoke slowly, and said, the trick just now? Hey, don't care anymore, Sas. Anyway, you will kill me soon, so don't care. Cough, cough, cough. While talking, Itachi coughed slightly again suddenly. Subsequently, his face has become paler, see this. Kisame, who was on the side, suddenly looked startled, then gritted his teeth slightly, tried to hold Samahata in his hand, and stepped forward to rescue. But, just before he was about to leave, the Itachi in front spoke again. This time, he seemed to have exhausted all his strength, looked at Sasuke, and slowly said with an extremely faint voice. Keep alive, SARS will give you. Today you have the power to change the entire ninja world. So stay alive. Guard Konoha for me at this final moment of life. He finally entrusted the deepest words in his heart to his younger brother. No more reservations. The voice fell, consciousness ceased. At this moment, Uchiha Itachi's pupils faded quickly. There is no longer any emotion, no more consciousness, it is like falling into some kind of nameless abyss. The heartbeat stops, breathing stops, and thinking stops. And until the end, he couldn't even raise his hand as before, knocking on Sasuke's forehead again. After all, I couldn't say that sentence again, forgive me, Sasuke. Next time. Chapter 256 The world's nuclear peace depends on Uchiha laughing wildly at the four masters, seeking subscription. Advertisement. The cold wind passed. The last trace of residual temperature was also swept away by the wind. On site, Yake was silent. It's so quiet as to hear everyone's heartbeat and breathing. And Itachi's heartbeat and breathing, but at this moment, no longer exists. Sasuke still holds the broken silver blade in his hand, pressing it against Itachi's neck. However, at this moment, he was suddenly stunned. Is this the end? Uchiha Itachi is dead? That's it? Sasuke's body seemed to be emptied of strength suddenly. He sat down on the ground next to him, leaning against the ruins on the side, and froze slightly. His expression didn't have any excitement, but only a lost expression. This result, it was completely different from what he expected. The result he wants, it was Uchiha Itachi's fear and regret that killed him relentlessly. But, before he really started, he died unexpectedly. Moreover, what he said just now, what does it mean again? Let me live? Help him guard Konoha? This would actually be? The last sentence before he died? Sasuke's breathing stopped slightly, and his pupils gradually lost consciousness. From a long time ago, he has heard others say, people often return to their truest state before they die. But why, Uchiha Itachi, a genocide rebellious, can say things that are completely inconsistent with others? Sasuke's heart was full of doubts and complicated thoughts. The breeze swept, flicked his hair, and at this moment, suddenly he saw the side in front of him, holding the big knife Samahata's Kisame, and at this moment, he was staring at this side. Sasuke put away the thoughts in his heart, then raised his eyes indifferently, looked at Kisame, and said indifferently. How? Members of Akatsuki, do you want to avenge Uchiha Itachi? While talking, Sasuke stood up and raised the knife in his hand indifferently. Rinnegan flashed and said. If you still want to go back alive and report to them, I recommend, don't do such a pointless stupidity. The voice fell, above the blade, a burst of thunder and lightning appeared immediately, winding the blade, forming a layer of thunder and lightning Chidori blade. And at this time, after seeing this picture, Kisami's eyes suddenly moved, and then he grinned slightly and said with a strange smile. Spray, are you revenge? That's not what I meant. However, you are Akatsuki's primary goal. Even if Itachi-san is dead, I can't give up this task. While talking, Kisame raised Samahata in his hands and put on a fighting posture. Judging from his expression, there is a feeling of seeing death as home. However, at this time, suddenly, Kisame only felt that the ring in his hand suddenly moved, and then, a special voice came in his mind. Kisame, Return to the Rain Shinobi base, the mission has changed. As soon as this sound came out, Kisami's face suddenly became startled. This heavenly pen. What's going on? Why at this time? Suddenly the sound transmission came? In terms of time, it's a coincidence. Could it be that advertisement he has been monitoring this battle? Aware of this, Kisami's heart suddenly jumped. Suddenly thought it was very possible the blue arrow of light just now can also show that there must be an off-field force to control all this. It seems, this brotherhood battle between Uchiha, sure enough, is not that simple. While thinking, Kisame originally squeezed Samahata's hand, but suddenly relaxed a little. Subsequently, he looked at Sasuke, showed a weird smile, and said, "Well, it seems that we can avoid a battle between us. Goodbye, Itachi-san's brother." The voice fell, Kisame lifted the muscles in his hands to his back, and then went away and disappeared in front of Sasuke's eyes. One side charged forward. Kisami's eyes were brilliant at this moment, thinking about something. In fact, just when I heard Itachi's last words before his death, he realized something was wrong. Swordsman Itachi, who has always been extraordinarily cold-blooded and ruthless, suddenly showed his love for his younger brother Sasuke at this time, and also said such words as, "Protect Konoha for me." If these words are not meant to confuse Sasuke's audiovisual, then they must come from Itachi's sincere heart. Thought of here, a helpless bitter smile appeared on Kisami's face, muttering to himself. "Mustela, so this is the destination you chose? In the end, you really let the water go." Base, when the voice fell. His figure has disappeared into the darkness, longitudinally into the distance. And at this time, in the battlefield, Uchiha Obito and Jutsu in the dark, after seeing this scene, immediately looked at each other. Immediately, Obito's eyes flashed, revealing the cold smile of the plan, and he whispered. "All right. Uchiha Itachi is dead. Everything should end, and it should begin. Although I don't know who helped Sasuke get the cells of Rinnegan and first Hokage. But, from now on, it will be our home court." While talking, Obito put his hand on his right eye. Kamui, stare. Space Uzumaki instantly centered on Mangekyo Sharingan, swallowing his whole body completely, and disappearing in place. At this moment, Jews in the same place also stared at Sasuke in the distance, showing a weird smile. To be honest, I couldn't even think of it. In addition to Uchiha Madara, in this ninja world, there is actually a second character who owns Rinnegan. Thus, the mother-saving plan can indeed bring another wave of progress. Now, below, after seeing Kisame disappearing in the distance, Sasuke slowly lowered the blade in his hand. The blue blasting thunder and lightning disappeared. Sasuke put the knife in his hand into the scabbard blankly, and then looked at the dead Uchiha. He still couldn't understand the words when Itachi died at the end. However, between his silence and thinking, suddenly, a strange space Uzumaki suddenly appeared behind Sasuke. Aware of the sudden appearance of this chakra, Sasuke's pupils suddenly shrank, and he turned around and looked at it without hesitation. And just as he turned around, I saw an incredible picture. I saw the front. In an invisible space Uzumaki, a distorted figure gradually emerged, and finally, a black figure was formed. This person is dressed in a mysterious black robe, a kabuto hat, and a special orange Uzumaki one-eye mask on his face. After seeing it clearly, Sasuke's pupils suddenly shrank. Because at this moment, he saw a blood-red Sharingan under the orange mask. This what happened. Living Uchiha people, in an instant. Advertisement. Sasuke froze completely. In his mind, a name suddenly emerged involuntarily. Uchiha Obito. This is the name Uchiha Itachi mentioned in the battle just now. Could it be that the person in front of you is him? Or, he was just an enemy who took Sharingan. Aware of this, Sasuke's eyes sank for a while, and then he put his hand on the hilt of the knife at his waist again. At this time, before he could speak, just listen to the masked man on the opposite side suddenly said in a low tone. "Unfortunately, on such occasions, come to see you in this way, Uchiha Sasuke. It looks like your revenge is over." The voice fell. Sasuke's eyes sank for a while, and said coldly, "Who are you?" "Why, there is a riding wheel of our Uchiha clan." The voice fell. The masked man Obito slowly raised his hand, placed it in front of the mask, and whispered. "It doesn't matter who I am, the important thing is that you finally fulfilled your revenge wish and finally freed Itachi from the pain." As soon as this word came out, Sasuke's pupils suddenly shrank, and his heart was shocked. What, will be free from pain? This however, before he thought about the meaning of this sentence. But seeing the masked man speak slowly again, looking at Uchiha Sasuke, he whispered in a very low tone. "Just before he died, you don't seem to understand the meaning yet. So, why not let me ask you, Sasuke?" Speaking of which, Obito's eyes met Sasuke, and he asked sincerely, "Do you really understand the pain in your brother's heart? Do you understand the cruel truth behind this genocide tragedy?" As soon as Obito's words fell, in an instant, Sasuke's face suddenly changed, his breathing was completely stopped, and his brain was almost blank for an instant. His gaze became complicated, he gritted his teeth slightly, and said in a deep voice. What are you talking about? Real?" Obito's sudden words. Suddenly he had doubts about the past that he thought he knew well. Could it be that behind the genocide of Itachi, is there really some kind of hidden conspiracy in 4.6? Sasuke's heart is extremely complicated, and at the moment, above the sky, Qing Yu stood inside the bent light, looking down below. A strange smile suddenly appeared at the corner of his mouth. The development of the event, just as he initially expected. Really, after the death of Itachi, Uchiha Obito jumped out impatiently. And, trying to cooperate with senior acting skills through some mouthfuls, come to blacken Uchiha Sasuke and pull him into the group. In order to achieve this situation, Qing Yu also deliberately contacted Nagato remotely. And just now, let Nagato use Pain's identity to transfer Kisame directly through the ring. Thus, this can prevent Kisame from disrupting the order at the scene. In this way, only the most critical roles remain on the scene. Villain deterrence, it has already taken shape. Qing Yu looked down, her golden pupils flickered, and smiled and said to herself. The world's nuclear peace, it's up to you Uchiha to laugh wildly at the four masters. Chapter 257 It is not Itachi that is wrong, but the world, seeking subscription. Advertisement the next day, early morning. Qing Yu returned to Rain Shinobi Village. However, before he entered his room, he immediately noticed something strange. But I don't know when, Nagato and Konan are already waiting here. Qing Yu's eyes moved slightly, immediately. Stepped into it with a smile, and said as he walked. It looks like you have been waiting for a long time? As soon as the voice fell, Nagato and Konan were naturally shocked and looked over immediately. But at this moment, Qing Yu was the same as before when he left, without any change. And if he insisted on saying the only change, then it was the faint smile on his face. This kind of smile is different from him before, but has a sense of leisure in controlling everything. See this, the two people's hearts were suddenly certain. Immediately, Konan on the side became serious again, looking at Qing Yu, his eyes earnestly said. What happened to the follow-up, Qing Yu-kun? Of course the two of them know. The reason why Qing Yu left was to monitor the decisive battle between Sasuke and Itachi. And also know Uchiha Itachi, already defeated by Sasuke, died completely. After all, when Qing Yu came back from the call, I told him about these messages and asked Nagato to transfer Hoshigaki Kisame there. However, Qing Yu did not come back. This is enough to show that he definitely has follow-up matters to deal with. Or, is to deal with Uchiha Sasuke, or, maybe there are other plans that need to be carried out. This is why they're here, and at the moment. After hearing Konan's words, Qing Yu didn't have the slightest surprise. While walking towards this side, he smiled and said. All the best. Well, not surprisingly, after O2 today, the biggest villain in the ninja world will take shape. As soon as Qing Yu's words fell, the pupils of Nagato and Konan shrank at the same time and froze slightly. What's the situation? The formation of the biggest villain in the ninja world? The words Qing Yu suddenly said completely exceeded the two of them previously expected. From their perspective, the result should have been Qing Yu's move and dealt with the threat of Uchiha Sasuke. But why is there something wrong with the direction of things? The two were stunned. Until a moment later, Nagato showed a surprised look, looked at Qing Yu incredulously, and tentatively said. Qing Yu sang, the villain you were talking about. Doesn't it mean Uchiha Sasuke? As soon as this word came out. Konan on the side was also shocked, quickly looked at Qing Yu. And heard that, Qing Yu raised his hand and snapped his fingers with a light smile, saying. Snapped. Guess it. As soon as Qing Yu's words fell. Pause time, Nagato and Konan stopped breathing at the same time, and his face changed slightly. Is it really him? This younger brother of Uchiha Itachi is actually the opposite of Qing Yu's deterrent plan? Hiss. But, what the hell is it? Advertisement. Why did that little-known guy suddenly become the villain's protagonist? Konan and Nagato looked at each other, both saw deep confusion and perplexity in the eyes of the other party. Until a moment later, Nagato looked at Qing Yu again, his eyes moved slightly, and he asked in a condensed voice. Qing Yu sang. In that case, did you deliberately arrange the battle of revenge between Itachi and him this time? Nagato asked tentatively. While Qing Yu sat on the futon beside the coffee table, he chuckled calmly. Yes. This is a necessary condition. Only after defeating Uchiha Itachi and completing his revenge, will he be able to embark on that path. At this point, Nagato and Konan are both people who can be completely trusted, so Qing Yu naturally has no need to hide these from them. So, I chose to speak bluntly, and at the moment. After hearing Qing Yu's affirmative response, the two of them stopped for time, and their hearts were shaken once again. It turns out that all of this is really calculated? Even Uchiha Itachi's defeat by Uchiha Sasuke was one of the steps in the plan to make him a villain? No wonder, in this way, everything makes sense. In fact, as early as the previous combat meeting, they felt that Qing Yu deliberately changed Akatsuki's gold to Uchiha Sasuke at that point in time. But now it seems that they are all connected. Qing Yu did not fish. He has been silently guiding the direction of the entire deterrence plan. Just when the two were extremely shocked, Qing Yu held up the teacup on the table while smiling methodically and explained. You are probably curious too, right? Why'd I have to go around such a big circle to promote the formation of opposing power? Furthermore, I picked a little-known Konoha genin? Qing Yu raised his eyebrows and said with a smile. And the voice fell. After Nagato and Konan looked at each other, they nodded. Nagato looked at Qing Yu again and said seriously. It really can't be broken. As a villain, is it true that Uchiha Sasuke's power is really enough to overwhelm the ninja world and force the five powers to form an alliance? Nagato's eyes were very puzzled. He believes, in this world, there are indeed people who can rely on their own power to overwhelm the entire shinobi realm and achieve absolute deterrence. For example, back then, the man called the god of ninja, first Hokage Senju Hashirama. For another example, in front of us, this invincible existence with the supreme pupil technique, the golden pupil Qing Yu. Their strength, there is no doubt that the absolute ceiling exists. Absolutely, it is the power that requires the 5 major powers to unite to be able to fight. Compared with them, as Konoha Genin's Uchiha Sasuke. Maybe it's just a baby who has just learned to walk. Even if he has a record of defeating Uchiha Itachi, in terms of strength, it is completely unqualified. Don't talk about touching porcelain Senju Hashirama and Qing Yu. Even the 5 shadows of various countries, maybe he may not be able to play. So, they can't understand, why did Qing Yu choose? Ha ha. Hearing Nagato's words, Qing Yu chuckled lightly, and after taking a sip of the tea in his hand, he chuckled lightly. He alone may not be able to do this, but what if Uchiha Obito's forces are added, and Uchiha Madara after the resurrection? As soon as Qing Yu's voice fell, this moment, the pupils of Nagato and Konan almost shrank suddenly, completely stunned. Uchiha Obito? Uchiha Madara who is also resurrected? What's so special? No Uchiha Sasuke actually got together with them. No wrong. Should say it turns out that this is the real villain in Qing Yu's mouth? Uchiha Madara plus Uchiha Obito plus Uchiha Sasuke, advertisement? Off. Upon hearing this, it seems really fierce. Although they don't know, how did Qing Yu make these Uchihas who seem to have little contact and form a force at the same time? But in this way, indeed, as a villain, it is completely qualified. After a moment of silence, Qing Yu spoke again, his eyes swept across the faces of Konan and Nagato, and smiled. Unsurprisingly, recently, that guy might do a little trick. For example, take the restrained tail beasts, Jinchuriki, secretly abducted, etc. You can pretend not to know. Qing Yu's sudden voice fell off. The two of them suddenly looked dumbfounded. What's the situation? Is it possible to engage in small moves? Take away the restrained tail beast Jinchuriki? Isn't this a small move anymore? It's totally a betrayal. At the same time, the other side, the country of fire, somewhere deep in the mountains. Now, in a cave, several figures were standing in it, keeping a rather strange silence. On the left, it was a man with black hair and red eyes exposed by haki. His left arm was broken and he showed a strange posture like dust. It is Uchiha Madara of Impure World Reincarnation. And standing beside him was a half-black and half-white Nepenthes creature, standing blankly. Naturally, it is the combination of black Zetsu and white Zetsu. Standing opposite them, it was a man with short hair wearing an orange mask, and a boy with a shoulder knife with lavender eyes. Uchiha Obito, as well as Uchiha Sasuke, at this moment. Uchiha laughed wildly at 3 of the 4 great masters and successfully gathered. Now, Uchiha Madara in the front, staring at Sasuke here, slowly raised his eyes and said indifferently. Did not expect, except for me, Uchiha Madara. Within the Uchiha clan, there are still descendants who can awaken Rinnegan. On this point alone, it's enough for me, Madara, to admit you. Uchiha Sasuke. The sound fell calmly, surging slowly in the cave. And at the moment, Sasuke standing in front, but his face was as indifferent as an iceberg, and his eyes were indifferent. Say nothing. Maybe it's because the truth that Obito conveyed was too impactful for him. So even now, he still can't relax, because he has already begun to realize a little. The tragedy of Uchiha, it was not Itachi, but the world that was wrong. Therefore, he would choose to follow Obito here. Because, the object of his revenge has changed, not Uchiha Itachi. But Konoha, full of darkness and evil, and this world of shinobi. Precisely because of this hatred, therefore, even when he met the ancestor of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Madara, who had passed away, he did not show any surprise or shock, still only indifferent. Call. Finally, after a moment, he breathed out slowly, looked directly at Uchiha Madara, and said indifferently. Madara, I am here, not to accept your approval. I just want to completely destroy this ninja world. For this, I need to borrow your power temporarily. Chapter 258 Project Tsuki no Mi is opened, and Madara is jealous. Subscription required. Advertisement. As soon as Sasuke's voice fell, in an instant, the audience was silent. Whether it was Uchiha Obito next to Sasuke or Uchiha Madara Kazutsu who was standing opposite, all were slightly stunned. Temporarily borrow power to destroy the world? This. Uchiha Madara frowned suddenly and glanced at Obito next to him. His eyes seemed to ask, has this kid always pretended to be so forceful? And seeing this, Obito also immediately understood. Immediately, the gaze towards Madara showed a helpless look, and she nodded slowly. In fact, when he persuaded Sasuke, he had already noticed it. This guy, naturally, there's the strength to fight the ninja world, as well as the disposition to fight the ninja world, but the only thing is that it is too arrogant. But well, this seems to be the fault of Uchiha Madara. Therefore, Obito didn't pay much attention either. Anyway, as long as Uchiha Sasuke can play the role of a pawn and help them complete Infinite Tsukuyomi's plan, all blemishes are not a problem. Obito can realize this. Uchiha Madara on this side is naturally not stupid. Of course he understands, Uchiha Sasuke joined here, just as Rinnegan's pawn. With the existence of the golden pupil Qing Yu in the Akatsuki organization, they wanted to capture Nagato's Rinnegan, which can be said to be very difficult. But now it's different with Sasuke. They now only need to obtain the Gedo statue and the 9 big-tailed beasts Jinchuriki, and they can use Sasuke's Rinnegan to directly open Project Tasuki no Mi. So, although the second pillar seems to be a little bit B, he doesn't care too much. As long as he can play the role of a pawn in the future plan, then everything is easy to say. And, if he is unqualified, Madara can also seize and defeat him at any time, and seize his Rinnegan for his own use, so that he can fully control the entire plan. After a moment of contemplation, Madara raised her eyes again and looked at Sasuke indifferently. In that case, then, I don't think you have to wait any longer. From now on, we are about to officially take back all the tail beasts Jinchuriki and the sovereignty of the Gedo statue. As soon as the voice fell, Obito and Ju suddenly became serious and hurriedly focused on their minds. And Sasuke's eyes condensed in the same way, in fact. On the way here, he heard from Obito about the plans of Rinnegan, Gedo statue, 10 tails, etc. Therefore, it does not feel abrupt or confused, and at the moment, Uchiha Madara in front of him, his eyes flickering, like a general controlling an army, Haki said indifferently. First, we need to take back the core existence of this plan from Nagato's hands. The body of 10 tails Gedo statue. This task is for you to complete Uchiha Sasuke. I will immediately teach you how to use your Rinnegan to summoning out the Gedo statue and completely occupy it. Understand? Understood. Sasuke's eyes drooped slightly, and he answered faintly. Although there is no emotion, the tone is exceptionally firm, beyond doubt. Madara nodded, then turned his gaze to Juiyu Obito and said quietly. As for you two, the task is to find a way to take away all the tail beasts Jinchuriki that Akatsuki has captured and restrained. At this point, it should be easy to do with your Mangekyo Sharingan, Obito. Uchiha Madara looked at Obito and said blankly, and hearing this. Obito was also expected, just nodded, really. With the power of his Mangekyo Sharingan Kamui's different space, it is easy to take away the restrained Jinchuriki. After all, after the Jinchuriki were captured by Akatsuki, there was no fighting strength to resist. In this way, the control of 10 tails will return to our hands. Madara's eyes narrowed slightly, the blood-red coquettish light gleaming, exuding brilliance, and continued. Advertisement, next, we only need to capture the remaining few tail beasts, Jinchuriki, one by one, to completely end this ninja world. Alright, action, let's get started, clear. Sing. As soon as the voice fell, Obito's figure suddenly disappeared into the invisible space Uzumaki, while the Jew on the side merged directly into the underground. No doubt, they naturally went to Rain Shinobi village, the tail grabber Jinchuriki. And this side, inside the cave, only Uchiha Madara and Sasuke are left. The scene was suddenly unbelievably quiet, after a while. A quiet Sasuke suddenly looked at Madara and spoke indifferently. Actually, I am a little curious. When the voice fell, Madara looked over immediately, also expressionless, and said indifferently. What are you curious about? Words fall. Sasuke lifted his eyes, and then suddenly stretched out a finger and pointed to the left side of Madara's body, where the dirty arm was broken. Before Madara could react, he heard Sasuke speak indifferently. If I read it right, the body you have now should not be your own body, but impure world reincarnation, right? So, the problem is coming. I have heard that impure world reincarnation people have a body that is immortal and recovers at a speeding speed. Why is your left arm in a broken state that cannot be repaired? As soon as the voice fell, Uchiha Madara froze for a moment and then suddenly turned black. However, before he could speak, Sasuke on this side again spoke blankly again. While pointing to Madara's right arm, he said indifferently. And, as far as I know, in the legend of the ninja world back then, you are the existence above all ninjas. No one is your opponent except first Hokage Senju Hashirama. Even if impure world reincarnation will reduce your strength to a certain extent, it shouldn't be such a discount to your level, right? So you should have encountered an unexpectedly strong enemy, right? Sasuke was expressionless and analyzed methodically. Although the speed of speaking is not rushed, but after one time speaking, there is still a hint of aggressiveness. And he didn't seem to realize it at all. Uchiha Madara on the opposite side, his face was dark to the ultimate at this moment. It's like wringing out water. To know, as the first battle after his return from rebirth, he slipped away with a broken arm. He was already very embarrassed. What's more, the opponent is just an unknown junior. A ninja in his early 20s, something like this. Once it spreads out, his Uchiha Madara's deterrent power will inevitably drop crazily in the ninja world. Therefore, Uchiha Obito and Ju would not talk about it. However, Madara didn't expect it. Uchiha Sasuke, this great-grandchildren actually came up and started asking questions step by step? What's so special if it's not for the usefulness of Sasuke's Rinnegan? He must have already started to teach, after a moment of silence. Madara's face was dark, and in a very indifferent tone, she whispered. Nothing to do with you. What's more, that enemy is not a level you can touch. But as long as our plan is completed, even he is not at all worried. Madara said without emotion. After all, he was not angry at the straightforward speech of this junior. After all, as an adult, if you care too much about children, there really isn't much card face. And then, he turned around, while walking towards the depths of the cave, he said indifferently. Come with me, Sass. Advertisement, you have to start learning how to use Rinnegan summoning to make Gedo statue. The back of Uchiha Madara with a broken arm gradually walked towards the depths and disappeared into the darkness. But Sasuke's eyes flickered slightly, and after a moment of contemplation, he lifted up and followed in silence. Although Madara did not answer his question directly. But he can probably guess one or two already. Since Uchiha Madara mentioned that enemy, it is enough to explain. The person who severed Uchiha Madara's arm must be in their opposite, and the strength is probably not weaker than the ninja god first Hokage Senju Hashirama. Otherwise, Madara wouldn't be able to call it a level you can't touch. Thought of here, Sasuke took a deep breath without showing a trace. Asterisk. Call. The real ninja world, sure enough, it's deeper than I thought. Not only is there a powerful and unpredictable person like the golden pupil Qing Yu, but his strength is not bottomed out. There is also Uchiha Madara's arm that is enough to cut the state of impure world reincarnation, and it makes Madara feel jealous. In view of this, getting Rinnegan is really just my starting point. Sasuke's eyes sparkled, thinking so in his heart. The figure gradually disappeared into the darkness. Time flies by. Late at night, in Rain Shinobi Village.
Inside a secret underground prison. Now, under the dim candlelight.
There are several figures who are tied to a special instrument.
Surrounded by special sealing spells, and black metal rods sufficient to detect chakra. And among these figures, there is the 5th generation representative Fungying, one-tailed Jinchuriki, Gar that Deidara originally brought from Sunagakur, the country of wind.
The remaining ones are also Jinchuriki from various villages. But, at the moment they are all in a coma, obviously. These special instruments and spells exist just to restrain several tail beasts Jinchuriki. But at this moment, suddenly, base, I saw in the corner of the prison. An invisible space Uzumaki suddenly appeared, immediately after. 2 black figures gradually contorted and solidified from them. These 2 people, naturally Obito and Black Zetsu. The moment it came out, Ju's sensing ability instantly expands towards the surroundings. After a while, then he nodded to Obito, lowered his voice and said. Except for a few tail orcs Shuka, there are no other, Jiao people. As soon as the voice fell, Obito was taken aback for a moment, then suddenly his eyes picked up, nodded, and said in a low voice. It seems, they are really arrogant. In such an important place, only this level of supervision has been arranged. Hey, in this way, we will succeed. The voice fell. Obito immediately lifted his steps and walked towards one of the Jinchuriki. At this time, Black Zetsu lowered his voice and solemnly reminded. Be careful, Obito. Don't touch the black chakra rods on Jinchuriki, you will be spotted by Nagato. And hearing this, Obito didn't look back, just grinned slightly, put his hand on the instrument, and chuckled in a low voice. In this case, I just need to lift the entire instrument with the human pillars inside, and move all the way, can't it? Awesome. Stare. As soon as the voice fell, Mangekyo Sharingan launched. I saw the invisible space Uzumaki suddenly appeared, and instantly sucked in Jinchuriki in front of Obito with the instrument. There is no trace left, and the next quarter, Obito didn't stay anymore. With a light smile on his face holding the winning ticket. Walked again, the next Jinchuriki position. Chapter 259 What if you were caught in the trap? There is nothing terrible anymore, seeking subscription. Advertisement in this side, after seeing Obito's fluent operation. Black Zetsu was taken aback for a moment, and then slowly let out a sigh of relief and relieved. As Obito said, in fact, he didn't need to touch those imprisonment charms or Pen's chakra sensor stick at all, and he could inhale the entire instrument with Jinchuriki into the Kamui space. Thus, there is no need to worry about being discovered by Nagato. Ahead, Obito calmly walked to the next Jinchuriki, raised his hand again and placed it on the side of the instrument, and Mangekyo Sharingan started. Kamui. Stare. Space Uzumaki appeared again, swallowing it into another space. Immediately after, he didn't have any pause, the last 4 tails Jinchuriki was also easily inhaled. So far, the 3 major Jinchuriki captured by Akatsuki. It has all been incorporated into the Kamui space by Obito. Hey, the task is complete. Obito turned around, grinning slightly under the mask, revealing a planned smile. He looked at Black Zetsu ahead and chuckled, thus. You don't need to let the white Zetsu outside continue to let the wind go, let's withdraw. Heard that, Black Zetsu nodded, in fact. Before they were officially teleported to this underground prison. Obito separated White Zetsu from Black Zetsu, and, with White Zetsu's ability to disguise, was responsible for letting go. As soon as someone comes, notify them immediately. But, they didn't expect it. This time the task progressed so smoothly. They also imagined that if they encountered a battle, they would find a way to get Black Zetsu to hold them first, and then Obito would forcibly take Jinchuriki away. But now it seems, all the plans seem to be unnecessary. Jinchuriki, it's completely at your fingertips, after a moment of silence. Black Zetsu was preparing to leave, but at this moment, he seemed to suddenly think of something, and said in a low 077. Obito. Will it be weird? Our Jinchuriki plundering operation seems to have gone too smoothly. The voice fell. Obito raised his eyebrows slightly. He didn't expect that this Black Zetsu had been thinking about it after a long time. But after thinking for a while, Obito still decided not to think about things too complicated. After all, in the past, he fell into a deeper trap just because he considered things too complicated. This time, no matter what, he has successfully completed the task of plundering Jinchuriki. No matter what kind of trap the other party has, at least for now. They have succeeded. As long as you successfully obtain these Jinchuriki, and then find a way to collect the remaining Jinchuriki, then Project Tsuki no Mi will be almost half completed. What if you get caught? By the time, even if you are an enemy of Shao, there is nothing to be afraid of. Thinking of this, Obito said indifferently, don't think too much. After all, it's impossible for Nagato to know that we need Jinchuriki. He who is sitting on the Rinnegan and Geto statue, probably thinks that only Akatsuki can build the so-called tail beast weapon. But he didn't think that we also had Rinnegan. Obito's words fell off. Black Zetsu was startled slightly, then nodded slowly. This is also true. After all, without Rinnegan and Geto statue, Jinchuriki would not be needed. It's understandable that they are a little conceited. Gone. While Black Zetsu was thinking, advertisement. Obito didn't hesitate anymore, walked aside, directly activated Kamui, and sucked the two into the different space of Kamui. Disappeared in the underground prison, the next day. Early in the morning. Konan is dealing with some affairs in Rain Shinobi's ninja school. Suddenly, a Rain Shinobi ninja with an extremely panic expression rushed over, his face pale and fast. No, it's not good, Angel Lord, target, the bound targets disappeared out of thin air. As soon as the ninja's voice fell, Konan's pupils shrank suddenly.
What's the situation? Disappear out of thin air.
This, just as Konan was slightly startled, the Rain Shinobi ninja whispered with an ugly expression. Last night, after checking the conditions of the targets, we completely locked the underground prison. But, just when I went to check it, I found out.
Although the lock has no trace of damage, the targets inside, together with the restraint instrument, have all disappeared out of thin air. On the scene, no other traces were left. Please, Lord Angel, please forgive your sins.
Speaking of last, the Rain Shinobi ninja suddenly bowed 90 degrees with an ugly face. And at the moment, after listening, Konan's eyes flashed suddenly, as if he realized something. The target of the Rain Shinobi ninja is of course the three-tailed beast that Akatsuki captured, Jinchuriki. Then, when they were restrained, Konan arranged for Rain Shinobi's ninjas to guard outside the prison to prevent anyone from entering them by mistake. And, arranged for them to check the status of the target every morning and evening. But did not expect, today something happened, after thinking for a moment. Konan looked down at the man again, and said faintly. Okay, don't panic, go on with your daily work. The voice fell, before that person could react, I saw Konan's body instantly turned into countless pieces of white paper, flying away, disappearing into the distance. Wrong. This Rain Shinobi ninja reacted and scratched his head in a daze. What's the situation? Are those goals the most important existence? How? It seems that Lord Angel doesn't care too much. To know, when Konan handed over the task of guarding these targets to them, he repeatedly emphasized their importance.
So, when he just came to report, I'm already holding a heart that feels like death.
But did not expect nothing happened after thinking for a moment. The Rain Shinobi ninja couldn't think of the result, so he took a deep breath and calmed down and left. ACEG, and at the moment, above the Rain Shinobi tower on the other side. Nagato was standing on it alone, observing the movement of Rain Shinobi. At this time, I saw countless paper butterflies flying in, and then gradually gathered together and turned into a human form. Huh? Konan? Nagato looked over, his expression slightly surprised. It stands to reason, at this time, Konan should be teaching Rain Shinobi's boys and girls in the ninja school. Why did it suddenly come over? However, before he could think about it carefully, he saw Konan on the opposite side, and said with a weird face. Advertisement, Nagato, there is a situation. The tail beasts of the underground prison, Jinchuriki, disappeared last night. As soon as the voice fell, Nagato's eyes suddenly froze. However, after only a moment, his face immediately looked like Konan, and it became weird. Because, at this moment, they suddenly remembered not long ago. Qing Yu once said to them in a series of words, unsurprisingly. Recently, that guy might do a little trick. For example, take the restrained tail beasts, Jinchuriki, secretly abducted and so on. You can pretend not to know. Then, after hearing this, Konan and Nagato naturally felt incredible. These words sound, as if he already knew the opponent's plan. And, it seems that he is also quite sure of Black Zetsu's rebellion. After a moment of silence, Nagato looked at Konan weirdly and said, You think, is the disappearance of Jinchuriki this time caused by the small actions of Black Zetsu? As soon as the voice fell, Konan raised his eyes slightly, shook his head slightly, and said, It should be more than, it's impossible to be able to move all the instruments seamlessly together in such a perfect way. So, there is probably Uchiha Obito. Hearing this, Nagato's eyes moved slightly, then nodded, and said, Really? Uchiha Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan is indeed enough to do this easily. The voice fell, the two fell silent again. The atmosphere suddenly seemed a bit awkward. After all, if it was in the past, they will definitely be angry or dissatisfied, and they will try their best to recapture all the Jinchuriki. After all, Jinchuriki is the most important part of the tail beast weapon plan. Without any tail beast, it is impossible to successfully create a tail beast weapon that can shock the world. But now the situation is different. They no longer need to build the so-called tail beast weapon to intimidate the ninja world. On the contrary, there is a more stable way to create a long-lasting peace in the ninja world. So, when I heard that the tailed beast Jinchuriki was taken away, except for a little surprise and incomprehension in their hearts, there are almost no more fluctuations in their hearts. Not as good as, go ask Qing Yu-kun. Since he foresees the enemy's actions in advance, he has probably already thought out the follow-up plan. Konan proposed. After hearing the words, Nagato thought for a moment, then nodded. Really, as Konan said, at this time, go to consult Qing Yu is the safest way. After all, the power of the tail beast matters, although Qing Yu told them in advance that they don't need to care about Black Zetsu's small movements, naturally, they can't completely ignore it. After a while, the two set off directly, heading to Qing Yu's mansion. However, just now, what they don't know is, outside Rain Shinobi village in the distance, at this moment, there was a ninja from the outer village. At this moment, looking at the Rain Shinobi village here, he showed a solemn expression. With long white hair, he wears a strange ninja forehead protector on his forehead. There is no sign of ninja village on it, but a correct word is written. Oil, that's right. This ninja from the outer village who is staring at Rain Shinobi. It is one of the famous Konoha Hasanin, Mount Myoboku Toad Sage. Jiraiya. Chapter 260 Jiraiya Invasion, Golden Eyes in the Rain, subscription required. Advertisement. Dark clouds gathered. The sky is dim. The black rainstorm scoured everything continuously. It hits the mountains and rivers, and also hits the iron buildings of Rain Shinobi village, making the sound of a sinking river. Jiraiya stood under the giant tree for a moment, his face solemn looking into the distance. Next moment, took out a dark yellow raincoat from behind, put it on his body, and then stepped forward.
His eyes flickered slightly, and his heart slowly sighed.
This place, he hasn't been here for many years, at the beginning. At the time of the Second Ninja War, he was in this country, together with Tsunade and Orochimaru, and became known as Konoha Hasanin. Also the same it was in this war that he met 3 disciples. And it also includes a genius who is most likely to be the son of prophecy. That is Nagato, who has the eyes of immortals, original. Jiraiya has put the heavy responsibility and expectation of saving the ninja world on Nagato's body. But unfortunately, just after he separated from his disciples. After a few years, then came the bad news. It is said that his 3 disciples all died in the civil war in Rain Shinobi village. Therefore, Jiraiya would regard this place as a sad place. Even after traveling abroad for many years, I haven't really returned here. But, this time, he could not escape. He didn't come back here because of condolences. It's one investigation. That's right. His mission here is to investigate, aka, the #1 terrorist organization in the ninja world. And, the mysterious golden ninja, Qing Yu, who appeared in Konoha back then and left many doubts. This survey plan, in fact, as early as the end of the Chunin incident. Jiraiya mentioned it, but at that time, it was stopped by Konoha's senior advisor Mitokado Homura. After all, Konoha was at a low point at the time, and no one was able to preside over the overall situation. So there is no way, Jiraiya had to give up. In addition, I plan to lead my disciple Uzumaki Naruto together, want to find Tsunade outside, and return to the village to take over as the 5th Hokage. Unexpectedly, before that, he met the enemies who infiltrated Konoha, Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame of Akatsuki. In this battle, he accidentally learned from Itachi. Akatsuki's purpose is the tail beast Jinchuriki in the major ninja villages. Therefore, Jiraiya had to postpone his plan again and began to focus on training Uzumaki Naruto. Until now, all the chores are finally settled. Tsunade has already successfully taken over the position of 5th Hokage and led Konoha village to thrive. The Uzumaki Naruto of that year has gradually grown up, and gradually has a strong enough to protect himself. Plus Tsunagakure came to ask for help. Jiraiya knew that the time had come. Now, it is the best time to start an investigation. Rain Shinobi village, here I am, after whispering to himself. Jiraiya lowered the brim of the raincoat and walked forward. Under heavy rain, the figure drifted away, and at this time. In Rain Shinobi village, in an elegant mansion, at this moment, a faint green smoke was burning in the tea room. And within it, Qing Yu was sitting on the futon, facing a small table, making tea boringly. Naturally, he doesn't know much about formal tea ceremony. So it's just to pass the time, and at this moment. Outside the door of the tea room, suddenly, 2 figures walked in. It is Nagato and Konan. See this, Qing Yu suddenly raised his eyebrows, showing a cheerful smile, and said. Yo, are you here? Sit down. Under this kind of rainstorm, he just happened to be bored, and it just happened not to be too boring for people to come. Advertisement. Nagato and Konan, who were on the opposite side, saw this, and they were not very cautious. Came over honestly, sitting on the futon directly opposite Qing Yu. Just after sitting down, Nagato let out a breath, then squeezed out a slightly reluctant smile, and said. Qing Yu sang, sorry to disturb you, but something weird happened last night. The 3-tailed beasts Jinchuriki in the basement all disappeared. Nagato didn't mean anything, but went straight to the subject when he came up. Obviously, after spending so many years with Qing Yu, their speech and behavior were somewhat affected. And at the moment, after hearing Nagato's words, Qing Yu's eyes lit up for a while, but smiled, and said leisurely. I didn't expect them to move so fast. How about starting to do it with Jinchuriki now? It seems, they seem to be chasing after them. As soon as the voice fell, Nagato and Konan were stunned at the same time. Can't wait? Is this Jinchuriki actually useful to them? Konan asked subconsciously. Qing Yu raised his eyes and looked over, chuckling softly. Remember what I told you before. It is precisely because Uchiha Sasuke joined the camp of Uchiha Obito and Madara that the anti-deterrent forces were truly built. And the uniqueness of this Sasuke is, he has the same eyes as Nagato Yu. Rinnegan. After Qing Yu's voice fell, the pupils of Nagato and Konan shrank suddenly and froze. This, Uchiha Itachi's younger brother also has fairy eyes? No wonder. No wonder they immediately came to take Jinchuriki away after he joined Obito's camp. It turns out that their purpose is also the power of the tail beast. Doesn't that mean, they will also find a way to capture the Gedo statue? Nagato stared at Qing Yu and asked solemnly, of course he knows. To cast the strongest tail beast weapon, Gedo statue is absolutely indispensable. And so far, only Rinnegan can really control the Gedo statue. In other words, if the opponent captures Jinchuriki, the next step is to capture the Gedo statue. After hearing Nagato's words, Qing Yu's smile remained the same, but his eyes moved over, calmly raised the cup in his hand, took a sip of tea, and said with a chuckle. Do not worry about it. Anyway, in our future plans, we don't need to use this Gedo statue at all. If they want, just give it to them. This. Heard that, Nagato and Konan were slightly startled again. Did not expect, even the extremely powerful Gedo statue, in Qing Yu's mouth, is like an ordinary object. Even, it doesn't get any attention at all, but, if you think about it carefully. When I fought with the Fox Ghost of Suya Palace, even in the face of the ultimate stunt of the Fox Ghost known as the Mixed Beast God, Qing Yu is also almost effortless, using the extremely powerful 5 swirling dragons of destruction technique to forcibly suppress and obliterate. He does have the confidence to say such a thing, after a moment of silence. Konan here is about to continue speaking, suddenly. Nagato's expression on the side changed abruptly and his eyes flickered. See this, Konan and Qing Yu naturally noticed something was wrong. What's wrong? As soon as the voice fell, seeing Nagato raising his eyes and looking over, his face has become very serious, and Shen Ning said. Some people from outside the village showed up and blocked my rain. And, advertisement, this feeling of chakra is quite powerful. Nagato's tone is low, obviously, there is no element of joking. He is not a joke. 0. Look for flowers. Here. Qing Yu immediately raised his eyebrows, and in the slightest imperceptible situation, instantly expanded his Ryotsu perception range. Stare. Just for a moment, the invisible perception of Ryotsu completely enveloped the entire Rain Shinobi village. At this moment, everything in the entire Rain Shinobi village is like an illusory 3D three-dimensional space map, displayed in Qing Yu's mind. And only a moment later, the discordant figure was immediately marked. That was on the street west of Rain Shinobi, a tall man in a dark yellow raincoat was walking under a heavy rain. Although his face was completely hidden by the kabuto hat of the raincoat. However, cannot escape Qing Yu's Ryotsu perception. Therefore, at the moment when he perceives him, Qing Yu suddenly moved in his heart, and his eyes flashed slightly. Immediately, an unexpected expression appeared on his face for a moment. And at this moment, Nagato and Konan reacted immediately. Qing Yu must have used his perception to determine the intruder. After all, in the past few years, Qing Yu has used this special ability many times, and it can't be regarded as a big secret for the two of them. Konan's eyes condensed slightly, and his voice was lowered. Qing Yu-kun, see who it is. Do we need to solve it immediately? Words fall, Nagato also looked over immediately. After all, such a strong chakra breath, he certainly wouldn't take it lightly. Even if he went to annihilate himself, he would not hesitate. And at the moment, seeing the eyes of the two people looking over. After hearing their words again, Qing Yu suddenly showed a helpless smile, shook his head gently, and smiled. I can see it clearly, but this person does not seem to be annihilated for the time being. After all, he is your teacher, Teacher? After Qing Yu's voice fell, Nagato and Konan suddenly shrank their pupils at the same time and froze on the spot. Of course they know who Qing Yu is talking about. After all, in this ninja world, there has always been only one person who can be called their teacher. Toad Sage, Jiraiya. He, actually come to Rain Shinobi now? Hiss. When the two were shocked and puzzled, on this side, it was seen that Qing Yu suddenly put down the teacup in his hand, looked at the two of them, and chuckled. Let me go, from today, we can show our Rain Shinobi attitude to the ninja world. Base. As soon as the voice fell, before Nagato and Konan react. Suddenly, I saw that Qing Yu's figure turned into an afterimage and disappeared in place. And his breath, it also disappeared suddenly and appeared in the rain in the distance. Nagato and Konan looked at each other, and both saw a trace of confusion in each other's eyes. However, he couldn't come up with an answer, and at the moment, under the heavy rain, Jiraiya, who was wearing a raincoat and walking in the torrential rain, suddenly stopped. Because at this moment, he suddenly discovered, in front of him, there appeared a young man holding an umbrella. Blocked the way. He was wearing Rain Shinobi's teacher uniform, with a black blade slung around his waist. He held an umbrella in his left hand, and put his right in his pocket casually. The brown hair was tied up high, with a leisurely expression. However, above his sharp white face, at this moment, a pair of majestic golden pupils are burning in the rain. Chapter 261 Golden Pupil Swordsman? The long-lost actor moment, seeking subscription. Advertisement. When I saw these golden eyes, Jiraiya froze in almost an instant. This is what Mr. Shikahisa refers to as the golden-eyed swordsman in Rain Shinobi village. It just appeared directly in front of me? This moment, Jiraiya's thoughts in the rain were directly interrupted, and he was a little confused. Judging from the dress and pupil color of the person in front of you, there is no doubt that it should be the Qing Yu who went to Konoha to take the Chunin exam back then. But, how did this sense of violation come back? I obviously just came in? You appear straight away? Jiraiya's pupils shrank slightly, and his face was very strange. Original, he also intends to pretend to be a passenger first, and inquire about the so-called Shao and Qing Yu information on the street. Then follow the vines to see if you can find the manipulator behind Akatsuki and the kidnapped tail beast Jinchuriki, etc. But, before he started implementing this series of operations, this golden pupil, it turns out, appeared directly? So, here comes the problem. Is this guy appearing here a coincidence? Or is it intentional? If it is intentional, then it means that he felt my invasion of Rain Shinobi this time? 077. It's not quite right. If he was here to deal with me, an intruder, how could he walk on the street with an umbrella so casually? This kind of leisurely posture can never be shown by people who are dealing with intruders. In other words, he came here just by coincidence? For a while, Jiraiya didn't even know how to break the deadlock. But, in any case, he is also one of the Konoha Sannin who is famous in the world of shock and endurance. What kind of big winds and waves have not been seen since traveling through the world of ninja for so many years? Naturally, he also possesses calmness and wisdom far beyond ordinary people. Then, after a very brief moment of ignorance, he immediately reacted.
Decided to calmly cope with the changes. Subsequently,
as if he hadn't seen half of it, he raised his hand very casually, pressed the brim of the raincoat, and continued to walk forward. This series of extremely lifelike operations is like no one else. But, of course it was pretended. After all, before he left Konoha, he heard Hitaki Kakashi and Nara Shikahisa say, "This golden pupil ninja named Qing Yu has unfathomable strength and very strange Muji ninjutsu. If you meet, try not to start a head-on conflict to ensure safety." After all, according to common sense, he and Jiraiya have never met, and even if they do, they may not be able to recognize them in the first time. At this moment, Jiraiya wanted to take advantage of this, conceal his identity calmly, and leave directly. Anyway, there are a lot of things he wants to inquire about, and he is not in a hurry at this time. Let yourself leave the side of Qing Yu first, is the safest way. However, just when he just walked to Qing Yu's side, suddenly, I saw Qing Yu lightly lifted his eyes and smiled leisurely. No need to pretend, Mr. Jiraiya. At that moment, your breathing was disturbed, and it was obvious that you betrayed you. Could it be that you didn't notice it, as soon as the voice fell? Under the heavy rain, Jiraiya's figure suddenly stopped.
At the same time, the face under the raincoat Kabuto's hat changed dramatically. This advertisement. What's going on? Recognize me. Obviously I just stared at him for less than a second, but I was immediately recognized.
That said, he didn't happen to pass by here at all. Instead, come prepared. Thought of here, Jiraiya's eyes suddenly condensed, and her heart sank. After a while, he turned his face slightly and looked at the golden-eyed youth beside him, forcibly squeezing out a smile with great acting skills, and said, Presumably, are you the Rain Shinobi teacher who took the Konoha Joint Chunin exam? Is it called Qing Yu? Seeing Jiraiya's smile, and then hearing his words, Qing Yu flipped Byakugan in his heart instantly, without replying. But, it was also beyond his expectation, did not expect. The information about his participation in the Joint Chunin exam at the time was completely given to the master by Jiraiya. Otherwise, it is impossible to directly and accurately say the identity and name in this short meeting. In this way, the reason why his breathing was disordered just now can be understood. Well, but it's okay to be recognized, it just saves Qing Yu's useless tongue to introduce it from me. When Qing Yu was thinking, Jiraiya here still had a simple smile and said, "Ah ha ha, I didn't expect it, unexpectedly, when you first came to Rain Shinobi, you could recognize me in the first place, it's really amazing." Jiraiya said with a very honest smile, "See this." Qing Yu also looked sideways, then smiled gently. One of the famous Konoha Sannin, and the author of the best-selling book, Intimacy in Paradise, I can't possibly fail to recognize it. It's you, it's really flattered to be able to say my name exactly when we first met. Obviously, I'm not well known in the ninja world. Could it be that you were here specifically to find me in Rain Shinobi Village? As soon as this sentence fell, Jiraiya's face suddenly stiffened again, and then he suddenly glared in his heart. Not good, somewhat careless, obviously it was the first time I met, and I actually called out the other person's name accurately. Indeed, it is indeed against common sense, original. Just now, Jiraiya just wanted to divert Qing Yu's attention, and then deliberately said that sentence. Unexpectedly, it caused the other party's suspicion. And, he almost directly guessed his purpose of coming here. No, absolutely can't admit it, Jiraiya must have swallowed without showing a trace, and then squeezed out the familiar smile again, holding his head in a simple way, smiling and defending. Ah ha ha, how can you say that you are not well known? Qing Yu Sang was in Konoha village, so how can I say that he left a lot of color in the past? Not to mention these golden eyes, I heard it by my disciple Hitaki Kakashi by chance, so I recognized it immediately. So, can you understand? Jiraiya said with a smile. This gesture is like chatting after meeting an acquaintance in a pub, and the attitude is very friendly. However, after listening to these words, Qing Yu's heart was already happy. NS, if Jiraiya doesn't explain, it's better to say. With such an explanation, on the contrary, it further proves his speculation just now won. This time Jiraiya came to Rain Shinobi not only to investigate Akatsuki, but also to investigate him himself. The less he admits it, the more he can explain it. But, naturally, Qing Yu would not puncture at will. After all, in this deterrence plan, advertisement.
Qing Yu is an upright and decent figure. Next, it was naturally time to start putting together acting skills.
Akatsuki's reputation, just start here from Jiraiya. While thinking like this, the actor Qing Yu naturally immediately pretended to have a sudden realization, and then nodded with a gentle smile, and said, "Oh, that's how it is, it's not surprising, I did have an experience of acquaintance with your disciple Hitaki at 5 or 5. Qing Yu said with a smile. The voice fell off. Jiraiya was taken aback subconsciously. Hitaki is 5 to 5 open? Are you talking about Kakashi?
When did he start to have this nickname? Well,
it seems as he said, sure enough, there was an experience of acquaintance between the two of them. But, how do I seem to remember Kakashi said that they met for the first time because Qing Yu exchanged information with him for a little yellow book. Cough cough. Thinking of this, Jiraiya coughed.
Then he looked at Qing Yu and said with a chuckle.
Qing Yu sang, I heard Kakashi say, you seem to be very enthusiastic about my Intimate Paradise series, and you have exchanged one of them with him on intelligence, right? Jiraiya asked harmlessly, seemingly human and animal. But already began to inquire about Qing Yu's details and by the way, tried to narrow the distance between the two. However, what kind of old fritters is Qing Yu? Naturally, he saw through his purpose at a glance. Then, suddenly showed a gentle expression and smiled. Yes, ashamed, I was a fan of your book back then. While talking, Qing Yu immediately took out 2 books from the system space. It is the 2 masterpieces of Jiraiya, Intimate Paradise, on the best-selling list, and Strong Perseverance Ninja, on the slow-selling list. FK? The moment I saw these 2 books.
Jiraiya was taken aback suddenly, dumbfounded on the spot.
This unexpectedly, this golden-eyed Qing Yu is actually a fan of my book? Not only is there a collection of Intimacy Heaven, but even the unknown copy of Strong Perseverance Ninja Biography is also collected? This Jiraiya looked at Qing Yu's gaze for a while, and it became a little different. To know, this Strong Perseverance Ninja Biography. Although it can barely be regarded as a novel category of books. But in fact, it was a chicken soup story he adapted based on his disciple Nagato.
Even he himself knows that 4.6 is not very readable.
In terms of fun, it is absolutely impossible to compare with the Intimate Paradise series. Otherwise, it will not be the case of the same author, one has sold record-breaking bestsellers, and the other is unsaleable and accumulating in major bookstores all year round. Therefore, when very few people would buy this book, let alone collect and read it. Even Hitaki Kakashi, a loyal fan, is actually an ISP who only likes to watch the Intimate Heaven series. Strong Perseverance Ninja, almost completely does not read. And in Jiraiya's memory, probably only a righteous fool like Lil Son Namikaze Minato would like this kind of book. But did not expect, the Rain Shinobi's Qing Yu in front of you. Actually take this special book with me thought of here. Jiraiya couldn't help but grin helplessly in her heart. Could it be that my previous guess and Mr. Luju were wrong? Is this Qing Yu actually the same type of person as Namikaze Minato? Chapter 262 This is what I said directly? Subscription required? Advertisement while Jiraiya is thinking, now, on a building in the distance. Nagato and Konan were watching from a distance. Of course they also want to know how Qing Yu will deal with the invading Jiraiya. However, to their surprise, not only did Qing Yu not shoot directly as before, but also started chatting? And what is the situation? He suddenly took out those 2 books. Although far apart, but, as soon as they saw the covers of these 2 books, Nagato and Konan immediately recognized them. That's right. This is definitely the Intimate Paradise that Qing Yu secretly bought back when he did the task, and the Strong Perseverance Ninja Biography that he often sells to others. Then, almost all of Akatsuki's members have been promoted by him. However, no one can understand the significance of his actions. Even Nagato and Konan are equally incomprehensible. And at the moment, when I saw Qing Yu pull out these 2 books towards Jiraiya, suddenly, the 2 of them were stunned. Because at this moment, they suddenly reacted the original author of those 2 books seems to be the Jiraiya in front of me. Hiss. Thinking of this, Nagato and Konan looked at each other suddenly, and both saw a look of surprise in each other's eyes. Could it be that, as early as many years ago, Qing Yu is already preparing for today's plan? This is too fierce. When I turned my head and looked at Qing Yu in the distance, Nagato and Konan had no doubts in their eyes, only admiration. And at this time, this side, of course Jiraiya didn't know that his 2 former disciples from O2 were looking at the situation here from a distance. Still thinking about something, until a moment later. Only then did he slowly raise his eyes, and then took the book of Strong Perseverance Ninja Biography from Qing Yu's hands, and looked at it casually, while smiling lightly. This is really beyond my expectation. Unexpectedly, when you recommended this book to Kakashi on the streets of Konoha, it turned out to be true. Jiraiya said with emotion, and then suddenly the conversation turned, looking at Qing Yu with a serious expression. Well, since you are my book fan, then I don't seem to have to pretend.
Yes, I came to Rain Shinobi this time, it's really not just for fun.
The latest novel I conceived is going to be created with Rain Shinobi Village as the background, but it still lacks some basic settings and so on. For this reason, although I checked a lot of information, I still haven't completely figured it out. So, I just want to come here to collect materials on the spot. Jiraiya looked serious and explained methodically. It looks like a meeting between a best-selling author and a fan. However, upon hearing this, Qing Yu suddenly turned Byakugan in his heart. Come to Rain Shinobi to collect material? It's really the same. If it weren't for the story of Shifeng, I would really believe it. No doubt, Jiraiya sneaked into Rain Shinobi this time, absolutely for the purpose of inquiring about Akatsuki's intelligence. And, unsurprisingly, he might have confirmed that this is where Akatsuki's headquarters is located.
In this case, he is still unwilling to inquire. It shows that he is afraid of throwing grass and scaring snakes.
It seems, I can only reveal it to him on my own initiative. Thought of here, Qing Yu's eyes flickered slightly, and suddenly his face showed a suddenly realized look. Subsequently, he raised a bright smile and looked at Jiraiya, his eyes sincerely said. Oh, that's how it is, since I want to draw on Rain Shinobi, please just ask. As a native of Rain Shinobi Village, I know everything, whether it is the civil war in Rain Shinobi Village or about Akatsuki's organization, I absolutely can't say enough. Advertisement, as soon as Qing Yu's words fell. Suddenly, Jiraiya on the opposite side was stunned and dumbfounded. This what the FK is this? The civil war in Rain Shinobi Village? And Akatsuki's intelligence? This is so straightforward to say. Jiraiya widened his eyes and looked at Qing Yu in front of him, as if he had seen a ghost. Original, he also wanted to elicit these news for some kind of plan. Unexpectedly, this Qing Yu, TM all shook out by himself. This, after freezing for a while, Qing Yu on this side pretended to be surprised and said. What's wrong, Mr. Jiraiya? As soon as the voice fell. The bewildered Jiraiya suddenly recovered, and then immediately coughed twice to hide his embarrassment, and said. Cough cough, nothing, can you tell me the news? To confirm, Jiraiya asked again, and Qing Yu didn't hesitate and said directly. Of course. I am honored to be involved in the creation of your new book. The voice fell, Jiraiya was taken aback for a moment, and then suddenly smiled in his heart. The readers are really amazing thus, it's enough to save my original investigation plan. Thought of here, Jiraiya immediately looked at Qing Yu, lowered his voice and laughed. In this case, then I will trouble you, after a while. Qing Yu took Jiraiya to a tavern, the moment you enter it. So many people saw this strange raincoat white-haired foreigner, but of course they also noticed Qing Yu on the side. After a while, many people began to salute or say hello to Qing Yu. Miss Qing Yu. Long time no see, Master Qing Yu. Wow, Mr. Qing Yu. Voices such as these kept ringing. And Qing Yu smiled and nodded in response, and finally took Jiraiya into the deepest private room. Jiraiya, who was following him, had his eyes flickering after seeing all this. He can clearly see the group of people who said hello just now didn't have any look of fear in their eyes. Yes, just friendly eyes like worship and respect in other words. The reason why they say hello is not because of their status, but because of the respect from the heart in view of this. This Qing Yu, it seems that he is indeed not a wicked person. Otherwise, it will never be loved by civilians. Moreover, looking at the respect these people have for him, his status in this Rain Shinobi is definitely not too low. While thinking, Jiraiya's mentality also began to gradually change slightly. To know, at the beginning, he had always suspected that Qing Yu and Orochimaru jointly planned the Konoha collapse plan for the Chunin exam. But now it seems a little unlikely thought of here. The two have already arrived in the private room. Sit on both sides of the coffee table, immediately. Jiraiya took off the kabuto hat of his raincoat, revealing a complete face. And at the moment, Qing Yu smiled leisurely while holding up the wine jug and wine glass on the table. Please start, Mr. Jiraiya. Advertisement. All right. Jiraiya just pulled out of the thoughts just now, and immediately took out a small notebook from his arms that seemed to be used to remember inspiration. At this moment, he is like a reporter, holding a pen in one hand and a notebook in the other, staring at Qing Yu, earnestly. The first question, I noticed that you just mentioned about the Akatsuki organization, and the Rain Shinobi Village Civil War. Can you elaborate on it? Well, of course it is for the new book. Jiraiya spoke straightforwardly, as if he didn't intend to bluff at all. And hearing this, it also fits Qing Yu's intentions. He showed a gentle smile, sipped the wine in the glass, and said. In the case of a civil war, it's very simple. The former leader of Rain Shinobi Village, Hanzo of the Salamander, was overthrown by the late Xiao Xiao organization and established a brand new regime. In other words, the current Rain Shinobi is no longer Hanzo's Rain Shinobi. As soon as this word falls, although Jiraiya's expression remained the same, there was a sudden stop in his heart, and he became solemn. Sure enough, the legendary Rain Shinobi revolution is really related to Akatsuki's organization. It is the change planned by Akatsuki, in this way. Can explain why Akatsuki uses Rain Shinobi Village as its base. Thought of here, Jiraiya raised his eyes again, looked at Qing Yu, and said seriously. So, today's Akatsuki organization, are you carrying out a special plan, such as collecting the tail beast Jinchuriki? At this point, Jiraiya's tone suddenly became a little vague. He even tried to cover it up with a cough, obviously. After asking this sentence, he also realized that he seemed a little hasty. Obviously, when I just started to ask, I already asked the core question 077. However, Qing Yu, who was opposite at this moment, didn't seem to realize that there was something wrong. He still looked the same, but made a slightly thoughtful expression. After a while, he suddenly looked surprised and authentic.
Well, collect tail beasts. This is the first time I have heard of it.
Could it be the actions planned by the inner ghosts who were kicked out of the Akatsuki organization? As soon as these words came out, Jiraiya was once again caught in the circle. Damn it, etc., etc. What's the situation? Did Akatsuki even kick out the inner ghost? Collecting tail beasts is also the action of the inner ghost? Jiraiya's breathing is stagnant, and for such an unexpected answer, naturally he is completely reluctant to force it. It wasn't until a moment later that his face was solemn, and his eyes were suspicious. You mean, the Akatsuki organization today did not capture the tail beast Jinchuriki from various countries at all? The one who planned this action was kicked out of Akatsuki. Jiraiya asked carefully. Before he knew it, the pens and notebooks in his hand were tightly gripped. Because, he has realized, I may be close to the truth. At this time, on the opposite side, Qing Yu nodded honestly, without hesitation. As far as I know, it should be like this. Well, why not, since you are interested in the information of Akatsuki? I asked Nagato, the leader of the Akatsuki organization, to come and meet you. The moment the voice fell, Jiraiya, who was still dignified, suddenly regretted. Immediately afterwards, when he reacted to Qing Yu's words, his pupils suddenly shrank and froze. At this moment, his thoughts were completely interrupted, and his brain was almost blank in an instant. What did he say? Akatsuki's leader Nagato.